Hello everyone, if you're new to my channel, consider liking and subscribing. It will make me feel wonderful if you do that. Thanks. By the way, I also have another Naruto and Luffy fanfiction channel. If you are interested, link is in the description. Koby's Choice by Sword of the Gods, Axe Hand. Morgan single-handedly shattered Koby's faith in the Marines, breaking his dreams. If a pirate is the first one to ever show you kindness in a world run by a corrupt justice, who do you follow? Well, the future king of the pirates, of course. I don't own anything. Adios.
Sunny announced their first sighting of Dressrosa on the 10th day of travel, the crew practically crawling out of the woodwork to see the island ruled by the warlord Don Quixote da Flamingo. There was little to be seen from a distance, however, since a ring of massive boulder-shaped rocks blocked off all visual of the country from the sea. Where do we pull in? Nami questioned, back in her own body once more, much to the relief of everyone else on the ship, her own included. They'd all heard the yelling that morning about how much Luffy had eaten while they'd been switched and what, exactly, Nami thought about the results. They'd rather avoid dealing with that in the future, thank you very much. Law, I trust you have an idea? There are only 2 ports on the island, the warlord replied. One to the south and another to the east. We will be docking at the south side. Why the south, if you don't mind my asking? Coby asked. He was dressed in rather casual clothes. A salmon polo with the Crimin brand logo on the left breast tucked into tan shorts held by a Sea King skin belt. Is there a special reason? That's where my crew entered when they scoped out the island for me, Law answered, pulling a piece of paper from within his jacket. He unrolled it to show a rough map of the island. We'll enter from here. That's a bad map, Ace commented. Nami had dressed him a cute t-shirt that had a round bomb with a lit fuse sitting on a dinner plate. The words, Food Destroyer, were stamped above and below, curved to encircle the picture. He also wore his orange hat and a pair of, very cool, sunglasses, the words, very cool, written on the side with white marker in both childish cursive and poneglyphic. Robin was very proud of this accomplishment. Excuse me, the pirate doctor demanded. Why? Ace blinked, tilting his head. You didn't sneeze. That's not, Law growled to himself. This is a perfectly fine map one of my crewmates made. But it's bad, the toddler reiterated, pointing. See, the lines are fat and crooked. And it's just one color. There's no buildings or trees or stuff. Mommy could make a better one while sleeping, and she usually throws those away. Cat burglar, control your child. Why? Nami questioned, patting Ace's head. He's right. This map doesn't have any details, topography, or decorations. It's downright amateurish. Does this crewmate of yours not have eyes or fingers? No, he doesn't, Law said. Or more accurately, Beppo doesn't really have opposable thumbs because he's a polar bear. So there. That's so cool, Luffy grinned. I want a growler pair. Polar bear. Law corrected with a shout. I mean, that's not really an excuse, Chopper commented. I only have hooves most of the time and I can still write legible medical notes. Define, legible, Grace rebuffed. She'd chosen to wear a short, single-sleeved dress that showed her left shoulder and was decorated with a diagonal fading rainbow spectrum, each color blending into the next so smoothly that it was impossible to distinguish between them. It hugged her lithe, slim form very well in Koby's opinion, considering she'd asked for it early that morning, not that he'd say such things where the others could hear. Her legs were covered with knee-high socks she'd tie-dyed with Ace during one of her lessons to him about color theory. I've tried to read your notes, Chopper. It looks like chicken scratch. Hey now, Sanji commented around his second cigarette of the day. It's not nice to insult the chickens like that, Grace. Sanji. Chopper whined. Robin, Sanji and Grace are being mean to me. Oh dear, the archaeologist sighed. It appears I'm out of tea. Sanji, be a dear and get me a refill. Right away, Robin Schwan, the chef answered, taking her cup and noodling to the kitchen. Law didn't know whether to be happy or regretful that he was starting to build up a tolerance for the Straw Hats brand of madness to the point where he only had a minor headache rather than a full-on migraine. He decided to get them back on track before they somehow rekindled their debate from breakfast about if Goda preferred waffles or pancakes. That the correct answer was waffles rather than flat, sticky, disgusting faux bread, and that was apparently a hill he was now ready to verbally die on. Said the madness was starting to affect him, too. We will infiltrate the city through the south port, he repeated, pointing at the map once more. Doflamingo's castle is in the center of the 5 cities, here. I don't know where the Smile Factory is located, though. We'll have to find that ourselves. Remember, Velo's mine, Nami hissed. She had the gall to kidnap Ace right in front of me, so she deserves a few dozen lightning bolts to the face. I love it when you get all angry and protective, Luffy muttered. Aw thanks, Luffy. Mommy and Daddy are flirting, Ace commented. Get used to it, kid, Zoro muttered with a shake of his head. And what about you, Law? Amy asked. She wore a lemon-yellow dress that flared at her hips and knees so to not restrict her legs' movement. The top of the dress was simple, only a few ruffles breaking up the simple cloth. A wide brim hat dipped low on one side, all but hiding her face in shadow and, of course, she carried her reinforced parasol. Doflamingo still has your heart, doesn't he? Much to my ire, yes. Law put a hand over his chest where the literal hole was, constantly reminding him of his failure to retrieve it. I'll need a disguise before we enter Dressrosa.
It might be best if all our big names wear disguises, Mary thought aloud. She'd chosen to dress down in a white one-piece bathing suit under a navy blue t-shirt 2 sizes larger than she needed. It had an upside-down sheep head surrounded by goldfish, the caption on the shirt reading, "Sheeping with the fishes." She also wore her cargo pants and flats, her corundum hammers at her waist and a baseball cap hiding the origin of her horns. At least those of us with the higher bounties. Speaking of which, Nami blinked, have we seen the fallout from the whole Neo Marines incident? As if on cue, a morning paper fell into their laps, the news coup that had carried it letting out a cry. The front page announced, Surgeon of Death's warlord status revoked, but the sheath of yellow tan spilling from within was more pressing to the young mother. Nami sighed, resting her face in a hand. I just had to open my big mouth. Law reached for the new bounties, his own face staring back from the first one. Considering such a delay, I wouldn't be surprised if they already had something ready for you and had to call it back in response to our actions at Punk Hazard. 460 million, huh? Not too shabby.
You're worth more than me and Terabang, Luffy demanded. Not fair.
Nope, Usopp muttered. You're in here too, Luffy. Looks like they didn't know what to do with you after beating Z since he was a former admiral. Usopp turned the bounty, Luffy's grinning face in a picture taken from their party on Punk Hazard looking back with the number 470 million below. The top of Ace's head and orange hat could be seen, the boy presumably sitting in his father's lap in the picture.
Ha, I win. Luffy's not the only one who got a super boost, Frankie commented. Nami, Jin, Sanji, and Kaku are here, too. We're the group that fought those manias alongside Smoker and Tashigi, Nami recalled. What are we worth now?
Jin's got the most at a super 210 million, Frankie replied.
I will gratefully welcome this new chapter of my story, the monk said with a bow. Sanji's in second of this group at 133 million, the cyborg continued. He's wanted only alive, though. Super weird. Maybe Jin's is higher because they want his fruit. They actually got a picture of him, Zoro all but lamented, said picture of the blonde with hearts in his eyes, serving the women of the crew food during their party while simultaneously kicking G5 Marines in the background. Am I in there somewhere? Don't know yet, Grace answered. We'll get there when we get the roundies gone up to 47 million.
I don't know how I feel about my son having a higher bounty than I do even with the boost, the young mother said. Her new picture looked to be cut from the same one as Luffy's, the woman smiling and clapping as whatever he'd said to make her laugh. I bet it'd be higher if I let them keep thinking I had a devil fruit.
And Kaku's broken the 100 million mark. Spring Wind, Kaku, wanted dead or alive for 104 million Barris. Ah, here are the others, Brook said. Yo-ho-ho, Zoro, you and Jin are tied at 210. Good enough for me, the green-haired swordsman shrugged. As long as I get to rub my higher bounty and swirly brow's ugly mug, I'm happy.
Coby, Billy, Chopper, Grace, Amy, and I are in here as well, Mary continued. Oh, I bet Chopper and Grace went up because you gave those kids imidogen hydrocarbon. Yep, there it is. Drugging minors with illegal substances, right there. Monster Doctor, Chopper wanted for 32 million and Magpie of Color, Mood Painter, Grace wanted for 61 million. Amy, you've gone from 28 to 43 million. We've also got Thunderbird, Billy for 20 million. Oh, ha, look at that picture.
Several crewmates looked over. Billy's picture one of when Zoro was piloting his body while fighting Velo's crab monsters with Wado Ichimonji in his beak. Grace's picture had the purple Shinokuni crystals in the background as she glared at Caesar out of the frame while Chopper's had him bent over his portable workbench, mixing the NHC-10. Amy's was also from the fight with the crabs, an action shot of her ripping one of their claws off. You mentioned me, too? Coby questioned. Right here, Mary nodded. Trihorn, Coby, now worth 129 million. And I am now worth only 79 in Terabang. This is BU. Nami gave her a hard stare. Yule shark food. How am I not worth more than that in Terabang? 79 million is a respectable bounty, Robin offered. Do recall, that was my bounty for the majority of my life. I suppose so, Mary admitted. I still think I should be worth more, though, I mean, I was the first wood fairy. At least you got an update, Frankie pouted after going through the posters and not finding a new one for himself. He crouched on the grass, using one of his smaller hands to draw circles as he pouted. I'm still at a not super 44. Neither mine, Usopp's, Robin's, nor young Ace's rose either, Brook noted, patting Frankie's back. My family are so famous, Ace grinned, pressing one of each of his parents' arms against the side of his face as what was probably meant to be a sort of hug. The timing of this article and these bounties could not have been worse, Law said, scanning what the paper had to say about him. A section of the article mentioned his alliance with the Straw Hat Pirates and another offered misleading information about the Punk Hazard incident that tried to imply that the Straw Hats had also turned on Caesar for unknown reasons, and that Caesar was now in the custody of the Marines. Anyone with a healthy skepticism of the world government would be able to tell the Straw Hats weren't around long enough to have worked for Caesar after dealing with the Neo-Marines, but he knew plenty of the world's citizenry would just take it all at face value. Well, what they thought didn't really matter anyway. I believe disguises were mentioned. At least for those above 100 million, Coby agreed, though everyone should at least wear a hat. Perhaps I can be of assistance, Kinnaman offered. With my magic, I can conjure disguises for any number of us easily. We just need leaves, right? Mary asked. Sunny? On it. The tree on the deck rustled with the ship's words, several leaves falling from its branches and floating to the floor. Mary gathered them quickly. Alright, who needs one? Luffy, Zoro, Sanji, Jin, Coby, Kaku, and Law at the least, Amy said. Probably Nami too, given her connection to Luffy. Sanji whirled out of the kitchen, getting down on one knee to offer Robin her drink with another profession of love. Robin simply thanked him and took the cup. Alright, everyone, Kinnaman nodded, placing his hands in a specific hand sign. Place the leaves on your heads as I focus. And, poof. Smoke covered those Amy had mentioned, their clothing replaced with a white button-up under a black sport coat and tucked into black slacks. Each also wore a black bowler hat, sunglasses, and now sported a thick, white beard. Even Nami, though her clothing was a bit more form-fitting than the men's, had the beard. What is this interrobang? She demanded, feeling the hair on her face as Ace giggled. A vein pulsed on her forehead as she lunged forward, punching the samurai. Kinnaman, you moron. How dare you give a beard? Father, Momonosuke cried, though he dared not get between the man and the mother's wrath. 1,000 pardons. Kinnaman tried to yell under the physical abuse. My mind was on other factors. If it's any help, I think you look good, Luffy offered. Well, the clothes aren't that bad, Nami conceded. She left the samurai beaten and bruised before pulling away, ripping off the beard. That caused the disguise to turn to smoke and a single leaf. Her previous pink shirt revealed once more. I guess I'll just go put on something a little more conservative than a t-shirt and shorts and do my hair. That and a hat should be enough.
We'll arrive in about half an hour, Sunny reported. That should be plenty of time. Hey, Law, Usopp asked, the sniper studying the map. He pointed to a splotch in the upper left-hand corner of the paper connected to the island by twin lines interconnected by countless small lines. Well, 37, but Usopp wasn't going to count them, so it looked like a ladder. What's this here?
That's another island connected to Dressrosa by a bridge, the former warlord answered. The island of Green Bit. I would have had us exchange Caesar to Doflamingo there if my original plan worked to drag him away from the main island, but it won't help us here. Still, we should avoid it.
Why? Luffy questioned. Is it dangerous? Ships have been known to vanish mysteriously when close to it. My crew told me the locals mentioned myths about fairies being the cause.
Fairies? Zoro said, unimpressed. Really? I mean, this is the Grand Line, Coby commented. Anything's possible here. With mythical zones out there, it could be someone with a fairy devil fruit or something. Yeah, or a sentient bug pretending to be a fairy, Mary agreed. Of course, Sunny and I are the only fairies to be seen here. She blinked. Guys, do you think there's a Klabouterman zone fruit out there somewhere? That wouldn't really be all that useful, Jin put in. If it lets Ya turn into a ship, Ya still wouldn't be able to float. By that logic, there's probably a ship fruit with the same weaknesses, Grace muttered. Talk about sad. Well, it could be super useful outside of combat, Frankie considered. Plenty of ships have a lot of cargo space in their holds. It would be an optimal fruit for someone in the delivery business. Why do you keep going on useless tangents in Terabang? Law demanded. Dressrosa and Doflamingo are right there. We don't have time to ruminate on the theoretical powers of another devil fruit. Someone didn't wake up on the right side of the bed, Zoro said. I'm going to die here alongside a bunch of morons. It could be worse, Mr. Trafi, Ace offered. Oh? Law questioned, an eyelid twitching at the way the child addressed him. Pray tell, how? You could die surrounded by bread. Law's ensuing scream was laden with many emotions. The towering rocks that surrounded the island of Dressrosa were much taller up close, the pirates gawking at them as they pulled into the South Harbor. Those with observation hockey, despite having time to appreciate the marvel of the island's natural defense, still let their senses wander in preparation for any unwanted, welcoming committees. Nothing was out of the ordinary, however. Sailors and dockworkers went about their business as if the thousandth ship despite her Jolly Roger. A man greeted them at the pier as Sunny pulled to a stop and dropped her anchors. Hello and welcome to Dressrosa, he called. Upon closer inspection, he was not a man at all, but a toy. His features were rounded and his hands did not have fingers, his outfit some type of old sailing uniform. The name's Momotaro and I'm here to check you in. Got to know who's coming in and how many ships are docked, you know.
We're just explorers, Nami said, lying as easily as she breathed. She'd changed into a simple, black dress that wouldn't stand out in a crowd and done her hair into a low ponytail, a sun hat the same color as her dress protecting her eyes. We're trying to map the new world and the one we got of Dressrosa was lacking. She held up the map Law had used to give them an overview. We should only be here for a day or two at most while we chart the island properly.
You could buy a map of the island from any number of stores, Momotaro pointed out. We prefer to use our own measurements, thanks. One bad store-bought map and you never hear the end of it. It's not my fault, Usopp called from further on deck. That guy told me it was the island we were on. Nami ignored him. So, how much for a day's anchor?
Standard price for a ship this size is 40,000 berries, Momotaro answered, tapping a clipboard in his hand with a pen. Nami looked like she bit into a particularly sour lemon.
Honey? She asked with a strained voice, choosing not to use Luffy's name. Could you go get my purse? Luffy nodded, practically bouncing away to get the money they needed despite how much Nami didn't want to pay. Within moments, the toy had the requested money and Sunny was cleared to dock properly. The crew began splitting into their predetermined groups. I want to go, Sunny whined, her incomplete manifestation stomping a foot on the lawn. Mary, Usopp, Kaku, and Frankie watched her as she tried, and failed, to pitch why she should go with them. It'll be boring waiting here for you to get back. I know what it's like, Sunny. Mary insisted, having to reach up to set a hand on the taller Klabouterman's shoulder. We need you here, though. Mingo knows we're coming. We can't leave your main body undefended. Besides, you won't be alone. Brooke, Momo, and Billy are staying here and the four of us will be here along the docks. But no buts, young lady, Frankie said, trying to nod sagely. He didn't quite pull off the act with his blue t-shirt and red Speedo. There's a den here, Mary reminded her. If we need you, probably for a quick escape, we'll call. And if something happens here, you call us, okay?
Okay, Sunny relented, her shoulders slumping. We're going on a walk around town, Nami announced, scooping Ace into her arms. We'll find that factory, easy.
Not if we find it first, Mary grinned. We're on infiltration and heart retrieval, Coby nodded, standing in a group of himself, Law, Grace, Amy, and Jin. Law wheezed, doubling over as, somewhere on the island, Doflamingo squeezed his heart for fun. I believe this is the part where one of us says that it is our group that will locate the factory, Robin grinned, her group consisting of Zoro, Sanji, herself, Chopper, and Kinemon. But our primary objective is to locate this Kanjuro individual. Alright, let's go, Luffy cheered. He offered his arm to his wife, the woman taking it easily and walking down the gangplank. Wait, Law called, Luffy and his family turning back to his fellow captain. Law pulled out a piece of paper and ripped it in half, offering one. Take this. If something goes wrong, this Vivre card can lead you to Zo. Zo? Nami asked. That is where my crew went after Dressrosa on their way to Wano. Assuming all goes well, that's where we will go, too. Thanks, Trafi, Luffy grinned, tucking the paper into the brim of his straw hat, which itself was covered in a different, black hat. Well then, we're off. The small monkey family departed, practically disappearing into the docks before making their way out into the streets, marveling as they always did when they first entered a new place. The toy working on the docks had not been a fluke as such living creations were everywhere in all shapes and sizes. The streets of Dressrosa were alive, people and toys moving around and interacting with each other. Couples of all kinds, human and toy alike, roamed while group of children and children-sized toys wove between the crowds. The buildings themselves were almost whimsical. Not to the point of being structurally unsound, but they were decorated with bright colors and wavy patterns that almost made them look like gingerbread or candy. Whoa, Ace gasped, his head on a swivel as he tried to see everything at once. This place is crazy. I wonder what the food around here is like, Luffy muttered, all but salivating at the thought. Ace picked up on this and quickly announced his own hunger. Nami rolled her eyes with a smile, setting the boy down.
This is so much cooler than that old lab, Ace decided, grabbing one hand from each of his parents and pulling them along, even if his father looked funny with the long beard. Maybe it'd look better if he trimmed it like old man Garp did. Nay, Daddy. You're hungry and I'm hungry, so let's find a place to eat. I think that sounds like a plan, Luffy laughed. Why don't you lead the way? Okay. Nami laughed as their son led them through the streets, twisting and turning as they tried to find a delicious scent to follow. That was, up until a loud tap-tap-clack echoed from their left. Ace stopped. All three pirates turning to see a pair of men walking down a set of stairs. Tap-tap-clack. Tap-tap-clack. The first was tall and on the heavier side, dressed in a long outfit of different shades of purple with a scarf of royal purple. His black hair was cut close to his head, sideburns leading down to a manicured beard, and the wrinkles around his mouth and eyes denoted the wisdom one only gets from a long life. His eyes, however, were closed,
covered in a pair of jagged scars that crossed to make an X on his forehead. His sandals were wooden, the getup providing another sharp clack every time he took a step. He tapped at each step before stepping down. The man behind him, however, should have been familiar to the captain, even if he wasn't. He was tall with short, rusty red hair. His eyebrows and bushy, but well-maintained, mustache were both a much darker red, nearly to the point of looking black, even if the mustache was starting to show streaks of gray. His outfit was a little fancier, decorated in metals and gold trim. He walked with a cane as well, but did not need it to scout out the surroundings. "Mommy?" Ace asked, tugging at Nami's arm. "What's wrong with the old man?" "Now baby," Nami chastised. "We don't point at strangers like that. It's rude. And what's Mommy's rule about rudeness? Only be mean or rude if they're rude first. That's right. Now you should go apologize to him." Ace let go of his parents' hands and walked over to the man in purple. He raised a hand. "Hi, mister, I'm sorry for pointing at you." A chuckle rumbled in the man's chest as he lowered to a knee, his companion carefully eyeing the family. "It's no problem, boy. You had a question about me?" "Yeah, why are you doing that tap-tapping thing with the stick? Why don't you just open your eyes?" "My eyes don't work like they used to, my boy," the man answered, opening his eyes to show they were nothing but a milky white. Rather than disgust, Ace accepted this abnormality with interest. "I had a fight with a pirate many years ago and he broke my eyes, I suppose. Now I use this stick to make sure I don't run into anything." "Did you try going to see a doctor? Mommy says our doctor can fix anything." The man chuckled again and reached forward, ruffling the toddler's hair. "Blindness is not something even the best doctors can fix. Tell me, are you here with your parents?" "Yeah, that's Mommy and Daddy over the you can't see them, right? Sorry."
You catch on fast. Jonathan. The man's companion eyed the trio, a glimmer of recognition glinting in his eyes. Nami tensed, her hand drifting toward her purse that held her perfect klima tacked.
"They look like a perfectly nice family," the redhead, Jonathan, decided. "Nothing abnormal at all." "I see," the man in purple said, Jonathan rolling his eyes. "Tell me, do you folks know where we can find some food or a gambling house around here?" "We were actually looking for some food ourselves," Nami answered, relaxing. "Our ship just arrived this morning. We're cartographers." "Oh, well, thank you anyway. Jonathan, we're going left. I'm feeling lucky today." "Of course, sir." The two men made their way down the street, the taller dutifully and patiently following the blind. "Bye-bye," Ace waved. "Hope to see you again, Mr. Blindness Guy." Luffy sniffed, his mouth starting to salivate as he lifted Ace and grabbed Nami's hand. "Come on. I smell something tasty. This place is not what I expected," Grace commented, the young woman walking arm in arm with Coby as they moved through the streets. Only the uncommon citizen looked at the group funny for having three men with the same clothing, hat, and sunglasses. Jin had trimmed his fake beard into a Fu Manchu and Law had cut his short. "I thought there would be, I don't know, more crying and destruction for a country under an evil warlord dictator? Do not let this peaceful facade fool you," Law hissed. "I wouldn't be surprised if this were all an act." "This place is giving me the creeps," Coby admitted with a shiver. "Those toys everywhere? They have souls. I can feel their lights, but all of them are scared and in pain." "Well," Amy sighed, "that just made this place pass the threshold from cute to creepy." "Shall we question one of these toys and compile their story?" Jin asked. "I do not believe that is something we should involve ourselves with," Rum whispered in his mind. "I fear what would happen to me if you did something foolish and befell whatever happened to them. I cannot take over your body if you lose it." "Estella!" a voice yelled. The group turned to see a robot being restrained by a pair of guards, the toy desperately calling out to a woman holding a little girl. "Estrella, it's me, please remember, it's me." "That poor girl," an older woman muttered, the pirates within earshot. "That toy's caught human illness." "Pardon, ma'am," Coby said. "Could you please elaborate on that? My crew and I only arrived today." "Ah, foreigners," the woman nodded. "Here in the kingdom of Dressrosa, humans and toys produced by the Don Quixote toy factory live together, but no production is without its defects. Every now and then there's a toy that convinces itself that it's a human. We call this human illness and it's a great hassle on all of us. And, if you don't mind my asking, where is this factory?"
"At the base of the castle, dearie," the woman answered. "Don't bother, though. It's strict law that no human is allowed to enter the toy house, and no toy is allowed inside a human's house."
"Why?" Grace blinked. "Because King Doflamingo decreed it. We don't need any other reason than that." "That's an odd amount of reverence for a pirate, don't you think?" "Odd," the woman echoed. "I don't think so. He and his crew saved us, after all." "Doflamingo saved you," Coby pressed. "How? Why? From what?" "It was 10 years ago," the woman recalled. "The former King Riku Doldo III went mad. He begged the people for money and we gave willingly, only for him to then go on a rampage, slaughtering everyone in his path. That's when King Doflamingo arrived, stopping the Mad King in his tracks. The people offered him the throne in return, and he's brought prosperity to us ever since. The guards started dragging the robot away, its screams for Estrella growing louder. Coby reached for his swords, ready to intervene, only for Grace to grab his wrist. He looked at her only for her to shake her head. Making a scene now would only draw attention to them. A growl rumbled in the back of his throat, but he relented.
As lifelike as they are, the toys are just toys, the woman said. Unlike some of the youngsters, I can tell that easily. They're only meant to liven things up around here. They certainly do, too. Ah, I remember stabbing a toy claiming to be my long-lost husband. How foolish it was. I've never been married. Ha. The woman walked away, muttering to herself about her lifelong bachelorette life.
I don't care what she says, Coby growled. Those toys are not just toys. We can scout out this toy factory she mentioned, Law agreed. That said, my heart is a higher priority at the moment. By the end of the day, Doflamingo's reign will be over. We should get moving, Amy suggested. I don't think we want to be here too long. The guards might get suspicious. Right, Coby agreed. Let's hurry. It smells and looks wonderful, Sanji cheered as Group 3 entered the town from another street. Smell the food. Look at the dancers. Smell the dancers. That's just creepy, Zoro muttered with a shake of his head. He'd cut away the beard of his disguise, leaving only the mustache. Do not go smelling the locals, curly brow. Please do not go attacking the locals either, Robin commented. Rather than walking, rode side saddle on Chopper in his walk point despite not having a saddle. She frowned, taking in the view. Something is not right. What is it? Robin Schwan. Sanji questioned on one knee. Is it the mosshead? Is he bothering you with his foul smell and ugly mug? I can get rid of him for you? Screw off, shit chef, said Mosshead spat. More likely she's getting dizzy at the sight of your eyebrow. What was that, you grass-headed mantis? You heard me, you virgin man thing. How dare, in Terabang, shush, Robin ordered. No, it's the architecture here. The architecture? Kinemon echoed, seeing as neither Zoro nor Sanji were in any state to respond, tugging at each other's fake facial hair as they were. He had remained undisguised, though he'd covered his top knot with a hat. What about it seems peculiar, besides the designs, of course. It's all new, built within the previous decade by my estimates, though I could be more precise if I acquired a closer look. Yes, Sanji agreed. A closer look, that's exactly what we need. The only thing you want to look closer at is a dancer's dress, Zoro snarked. Now that is an idea, Kinemon grinned. Help, someone yelled, all attention on the street going to a tall, scarecrow-like toy on the edge of the next street over. Help, a man's been stabbed. Stabbed? Robin echoed with an arched brow. How peculiar, what do you suppose transpired? Ah man, another one? A bystander blinked. The pirates turned only to find said bystander was a soldier drummer toy a little shorter than they were. His arms and legs were connected to strings leading up to a wooden crossbar hanging over his head. Another one? Zoro asked. You mean this happens all the time? Have you all got a serial killer on the loose or something? No, nothing like that, the toy replied. It's the women around here. They're very passionate, and maybe prone to a little violence. If they catch their man cheating, more often than not a heel or a knife or something else sharp comes out. And this type of instance happens regularly? Robin queried. Something like that. For some women, their man even looking at another woman counts as cheating. It seems the more beautiful ones are more violent. How scary, Chopper muttered. Did your deer just talk? No, don't be silly, Robin waved off. Wait, you look familiar. The toy drew closer and his eyes would have narrowed if they weren't painted on. Have I seen you somewhere before? Don't you dare get so close to a lady without her permission, Sanji growled, placing himself between Robin and the toy drummer. Oh dear, how rude of me, the toy realized. So sorry, well, I'll be off. Please enjoy your stay in the kingdom of Dur walked off, drumming to himself. The group of 5 glanced at each other, now wary. So was the Straw Hat's first interaction with the townsfolk of Dressrosa, the kingdom of passion. Though following the smell of food rather than anything visible, Luffy, Nami, and Ace found themselves in the same establishment as the man dressed in purple and his companion, the former sitting at a roulette table and the latter acting as his eyes to tell if the man won. He seemed to be on a hot streak, the rest of the table always copying his bet, though a few of the more risk-prone would go for numbers rather than a simple red or black. A group of black-dressed men and 2 women held deepening scowls with each round he won. The group that Nami suspected represented the house eyeing the blind man's companion with unmitigated disdain. All this food's so good, Luffy cheered, Nami turning away from the gambling table, and the nagging sense that she should know one of the men there, to find her husband and son with their mouths stuffed and cheeks bulging. I can't say half it, but I see. Do not talk with your mouth full, she chastised, popping a cooked shrimp into her mouth. She relaxed, savoring the spices that danced over her tongue, and swallowed. That said, this is really good. What's it called again? That's a shrimp paella, miss. A blue toy monkey with a yellow top hat said, clapping its cymbal-covered hands so the instruments made a great crash. Or is it? Mr. Manky waiter, Ace whined. My soup's cold.
That's fairy pumpkin gazpacho. The toy replied. It's supposed to be cold. Crash. Or is it?
Is it? It is. Crash. Was. Luffy swallowed. What's a fairy pumpkin? Well, you see, Crash, in this country, many people still believe the old legends, you know. Crash, or do they? What kinds of legends? Ace asked. The stories of fairies, of course. Although, I suppose it's more accurate to say the people around here see things rather than just believe them. Crash, or do they? Do they? They do. What kinds of things? Nami questioned, leaning forward slightly. Well, the fairies themselves, obviously, the toy replied. They're Dressrosa's guardian deities according to the stories, but, well, most people haven't seen them for themselves. Crash, but we all know they exist. How do you know? Have you met one? Well, no, but things go missing sometimes. Those fairies sound more like thieves to me, Luffy muttered, trying not to talk with his mouth full. Well, you all better take care, it's a wild world out there, or is it, Crash? Is it? Ace asked. It is. The monkey toy practically skittered away, banging his cymbals together and laughing. He was weird, the toddler summarized, sipping his gazpacho. He rolled his head back and forth, thinking. It's not as good as Uncle Pervy Cook's food, but I guess it's okay. It'd be better warm, though. You can have a little bit of my paella, Nami offered, extending her fork to the boy. You're the bestest, Mommy. Ace perked up, scooting his chair closer to his mother. He knew, after all, his father was never going to share. Fairies, huh? Luffy mused around his squid fideuà with a side dish of fried pimientos. Do you think they're like Mary and Sunny? I highly doubt it, Nami replied as their son Happy chewed on a shrimp. Mary and Sunny are wood fairies. While they could be considered protectors, calling them any sort of deity is a stretch. Dietary? No, Luffy. Deity, as is a type of god. Oh, good, do you think they taste good? Auntie Robin Sensei would say they might taste heavenly, Ace giggled. Nami tried to hide her amused smile behind a napkin, shaking her head. Still, the woman continued. If these fairies are real and have a habit of taking things, we'll have to keep our eyes open so they don't snag anything important of ours. Like my hat, Luffy nodded. Or my hat, Ace echoed. I was thinking more life or death items, Nami sighed. Things like Zoro's swords or Mary's heart. Oh, Luffy blinked. Yeah, that could be pretty bad. How the hell are you cheating, you geezer in Terabang? A voice across the room yelled. A table breaking as they person shouting through it. Betting chips scattered as the roulette wheel cracked. No, it doesn't matter, because you won't even get a chance to cash in all those chips of yours. I advise against this course of action, the blind man's companion said, both he and the man in purple unmoved from the show of violence. The table's other players that had been following the blind man's lead had fallen to the floor and were trying to crawl away without attracting the black-clad group's ire. Yeah? The apparent leader of said group demanded. And what are you gonna do about it? Why, act in self-defense. That is, only if you make the first move, of course. At this point, you can still walk away. I'll have you know we're members of the Don Quixote Pirates. In this country, our word is law. Oh dear, the man in purple sighed. Please, do not draw your swords. How did? The leader of the group threw his hand up, silencing his lackey. Get out, old-timer, he ordered, before we take what's left of your short life. Stop being mean. The Don Quixote pirate staggered back as a young voice spoke up right in front of him. Jonathan's eyes widened as the young child whose family he and his current commander met stuck up for them, getting directly between the men and the pirates. Who the hell are you, brat in Terabang? The pirate demanded. Ace began only to remember his family were supposed to not tell anyone who they were. His eyes turned to the side, his lips stretching as he tried to come up with a convincing lie. I'm Momo, Pen, Yo, Ko. What? I'm Momo Pen Yoko, what the hell kind of name is that? It doesn't matter, you're being mean to the nice blind guy, so I'm gonna kick your ass. Get lost, kid. This doesn't concern you. No way, Ace replied. My uncle hates mean guys like you, so I can't let you go unless you say you're sorry. The pirate blinked. Once. Twice. Ah ha 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 ha, he laughed, his cronies joining in. I don't know what this brat's been drinking, but it must be the good stuff. Ace fumed, these men clearly not taking him seriously. You, easy there, young man, the blind man said, standing from his chair and walking around the boy. I admire your protective zeal, but Jonathan and I can take care of ourselves. What makes you think we're scared of a blind man and his handler? The leader of the group questioned.
If I were you, I'd run away, the disguised Luffy commented from the side, still casually eating his pasta, though Nami could tell he was much more tense than he appeared, ready to charge in if Ace was put in any real danger. Well, if I was you, you wouldn't be such a weakling that my 2-year-old boy could take you down.
Excuse me in Terabang, the leader demanded, a vein popping by his twitching eye. And who the hell do you think you are? I'm Luffy began, Nami quickly covering his mouth. We're mapmakers, she said, using their agreed upon cover story. But we're still strong enough to sail the new world. Unlike you, it sounds. I'll show you what new world pirates can do. Bye. He cut his words off with a squeak, his hands instantly going to his nethers where Ace has unceremoniously and without warning punched him with all his might. The man whimpered, sinking to his knees. You, Brad, I'll kill you. The man reached for Momopenyoko, only for his hand to find nothing but air. His blurry, tear-filled vision raised to see the child now on the shoulder of the one named Jonathan, even said child seeming confused about his sudden shift. These old bones of mine don't move like they used to, the blind man complained, tapping his walking stick on the floor. Let's not drag this out. His cane tapped the floor 3 times, something like a pulse emanating with each. The floorboards creaked, each and every Don Quixote pirate in the establishment falling to their knees and, further, onto their faces. What is this? One questioned. I see can't move. My body feels so heavy, another whimpered. Luffy and Nami watched, eyes wide. Force on the men increased until, with a loud snap, the flooring and the bedrock below gave way, dragging the pirates into darkness. A perfect circle carved out of the area. The destruction threw up a cloud of dust, everyone other than Luffy. The pirate captain still eating, coughing at the obstruction, trying to wave it away. There is just so much evil in the world. The blind man sighed as the dust settled, raising one hand before his face as if in prayer. Sometimes, having lost my sight seems like a blessing. At least then, I don't have to suffer the curse of seeing all the hate. You're pretty strong, blind guy, Luffy commented as said man turned toward the door and began walking out. What's your name? The man paused. For both of our sakes, it might be better I don't answer that. Jonathan walked over, handing Ace over to his mother. Take care of that boy. He seems prone to recklessness. He gets it from his father's side, Nami said, rolling her eyes. She turned to the man in purple. Thank you for keeping him safe. It was my pleasure. Goodbye now. He stepped out the door, Jonathan hurrying to catch up to him. The rusty-haired man stopped by the woman manning the register, offering her a paper. Please refer all damage and repairs costs to this address, ma'am. He followed out the door, ignoring the woman's startled gasp as she read whatever was written on the page. Who was that? Nami blinked, swallowing heavily as she studied the massive hole left behind. A super cool guy, Ace answered, throwing his hands in the air. Nami stumbled, having to rebalance herself to keep from Ace's sudden movement tipping them both. Luffy steadied her with a hand on her shoulder. Hey, someone in the crowd gasped, my wallet's gone. Someone swiped my favorite jacket, another exclaimed. My hat, a third said, has anyone seen my hat? What's going on here? Nami demanded. It's the fairies, the blue monkey toy commented. They've come by to take their tithes. Crash, or have they? It's the fairies, that you say? A toy drummer asked, Rape-tat tapping on his drum. Then that just means we need to look the other way. Oh, several of the now formerly angry patrons sighed with mutual shrugs. Well then, I suppose it can't be helped. They weren't angry for very long, Ace observed. What a convenient excuse, Nami agreed. She blinked. Wait, my purse, they took my purse. No point looking for it once the fairies take, the toy said. Just shrug and give your head a shake. Screw that. Nami yelled. My perfect climatac's in there, Lou. She cut herself off, not wanting to expose her husband and captain's name to the masses. Get it back. Okay. They're this way. I can feel it. Luffy charged toward one of the back windows just as a bag stuffed to the brim with stolen goods slipped through the crack. Luffy's hand barely missed, the bag practically bouncing away down the road. Get back here, fairy guy. The pirate captain yelled, breaking through the window so Nami and Ace would have enough room to follow them. The bag of stolen goods gave a startled jump and redoubled its speed. Luffy hot on its tail and Nami carrying Ace trailing behind. You know, Amy began, the group of 5 growing closer to Dressrosa Castle with each step. If you ignore the toys and the terrifying implications thereof, this place is actually really pretty. I concur, Jin agreed. It's almost sad most OTH islands probably gonna be rubble by time we're done. I just have to memorize how it looks now, Grace said, studying the buildings with her trained eye, her sketchpad already in her hand as she made simple diagrams of some of the more complicated buildings. I wonder what Robin would have to say about it. Probably something morbid, Coby commented, ignoring the bad feeling in his gut about the likelihood of Jin's prediction coming true. He was walking ahead of her, clearing her path of debris or passers-by who might get in her way so she didn't need to watch where she was going. Something like, oh, what a beautiful church. I wonder how long it's been since it hosted a funeral. That does sound like something she'd say, Amy laughed. You know, Grace muttered, I don't think I've ever seen buildings quite like these. Never, Coby blinked. The closest thing is artwork from the Grand Line artist Salvador Dali, and he was notorious for his bad eyesight and lack of comprehension on reality. Well, according to scholars. Anyone who's actually traveled the Grand Line would understand why he never saw things quite the same way afterward. I have, Amy offered. Seen buildings like this, I mean. They look similar to buildings in Totland, only those are made of foodstuffs rather than actual brick and mortar. Totland in Terabang, Law gasped, rounding on the blonde. You have been within Big Mom's territory and escaped with your life in Terabang. I spent 2 years there, the chocolatier confirmed. 2 of her daughters helped smuggle me out when it came time for our crew to reunite. I learned a lot about both baking and armament hockey while I was there. Is it really such a dangerous place? Jin asked. The details of Big Mom's territory are limited to rumors and hearsay, Law said. Few dare to risk entering, and even fewer leave with their bodies intact, much less their sanity. Mayukuru had me dead to rights within minutes of my arrival, but she took a liking to me, Amy shrugged. She got me a job with her sister pudding. I'd, rather not go back, though. I was forced to make a few promises I'd rather not fulfill.
Promises like what? Jin questioned, a single eyebrow arched.
Are you sure you want to get into the details, Jin? Amy rebuffed. You seem to want to avoid that kind of stuff up to this point. That's well, what's wrong, Jin? Homie got your tongue. What's a homie? Coby blinked. They're these, what's the word I heard for it? I think someone called them homunculi once. Ma, she coughed. Big Mom has the ability to take part of a person's lifespan and put it inside an inanimate object, bringing it to life. Some of them are pretty useful, like Pudding's flying carpet rabion. Others are inconvenient at times. Interesting, Law commented, rubbing his chin. This ability of Big Mom's you mentioned, does it allow her to extend her own lifespan? I mean, probably, Amy answered. I was never able to get an outright answer, but I can't imagine any other way she's been able to have so many kids so consistently and for so long. How many kids does she have? Well, her oldest are in their 50s, and she had, Amy counted on her fingers, 6 while I was there. 6 in Terabang, Coby gasped. In 2 years in Terabang, a power that can distort fabrico life so thoroughly, Jin shivered. It disrupts pages of fate. I don't believe in fate, Grace decided, only paying half attention to the conversation. That implies our choices aren't our own. I think we've seen some things that make some strong arguments for its existence, though, Coby offered, a hand on his chin. Or, at least, we've seen some wild coincidences. I mean, how many times did we step into a situation with just enough time to help? Do you really want to argue about something so trivial right now? Law questioned. We happen to be in the middle of a very serious mission. And we're taking this very seriously, Amy replied. Wouldn't it bring more attention on us if we were a group walking in perfect silence? Still, to argue about such a topic in the open risks attention. You need to learn how to relax, Grace commented. Look, everybody wants to stick out of the crowd. That's why people who try too hard to act normal get spotted. The secret to infiltration without detection is not getting caught, it's acting so calm and sure of yourself that everyone thinks you're just meant to be there. To all these people around us, we're just a group taking in the sights here as we talk. That's all we need to be to them. Pretending like we belong is not going, Law noted. And when we get to the castle, we'll have a new strategy, Grace shrugged. When that happens, we'll be a whole lot more cautious. Until then, just keep acting the way you always do. Or maybe don't, Amy laughed. You're a bit of a sourpuss, Law, too sour. I am not sour, the captain of the Heart Pirates rejected, I'm serious. Guys, Coby questioned, pointing to their right. There's a surge of people all going one direction all at once. I can feel a massive group of people at the edge of my observations range, and it's growing by the minute. They must be having some sort of show. Pardon me, Amy said, grabbing a toy by the arm. It was a type of jack in a box but with the bottom of the box mounted atop a single, large wheel. Yes, ma'am, it said, spinning around to face her. Its head jerked and clicked in time with its stutter. One of its eyes was hanging by a string and its jester hat had one of its corners missing. How can I help you? Where's everyone going? Is there a carnival or something going on? You haven't heard, the toy said, and Amy imagined it would have blinked if it had eyelids and one of its eyes wasn't dangling off its face. There's a major compete on in the Corrida Coliseum today. The winners will get to join King Doflamingo's ranks as officers. Does this happen often? Maybe once a month, the toy answered. But there's rumors this one's special other than 2 winners. I gotta go to hear why. The toy wheeled around, doubling its speed from before in the direction of the Corrida Coliseum. Y'all think that's gonna be important? Jin questioned. Whatever is happening at this competition is none of our concern, Law rebuffed. Rather, Doflamingo's crew should be thinned out with its management and security. Now is an optimal time for our infiltration of the castle. We should get moving. Guess we better hurry, then, Coby nodded. No sooner had he finished his sentence than the crew's dens began to rain. This is most intriguing, Robin commented as she opened her eyes. What's intriguing? Chopper asked, glancing up at the woman riding on his back. There are multiple commotions across the city, the archaeologist replied. It appears a number of thieves have all struck at once, stealing a great number of small items. Thieves? Kinnaman grunted. Individuals with no honor taking what does not belong to them, what scum? Was that supposed to be a dig at me? Zoro growled. For the last time, I fought a zombie for this sword. He gave it to me, and burst into blue flames. What more do you want? I want you to return the sacred treasure of Wano, the sword Shisui. And like I've said before, Shisui's mine. You can fight me for it when everything's said and done. As long as those thieves don't take it, Sanji grinned. As if, Zoro grunted, crossing his arms. The only way anyone's getting one of my swords is a fair trade for another or prying it from my cold, dead hands. Don't joke like that, Zoro, Chopper gasped. If you die, that means a super strong enemy is coming for the rest of us. I quite agree, Robin nodded. Any opponent with the ability to end your life has a considerable chance of immolating the rest of us, leaving only your terrified screams to echo on the wind, striking fear into the hearts of all those who cheered for our victory in the face of such overwhelming power. Robin, the reindeer cried. Stop it, my apologies, Chopper, the woman cooed, running her hand through her mount's fur. I was only joking. We must return to the topic at hand, Kinnaman reminded them. We must find and liberate Kanjuro. And we still don't know what this guy looks like, Sanji grunted, lighting a new smoke.
Have I not drawn you a clear picture? Kinnaman held up a piece of paper, the image on one side humanoid with what must be long hair and a sword that looked more like a baseball bat with a feather duster stuck to its end. Other than that, it could be anyone and resembled no one. This is Kanjuro.
That doesn't give us anything, Zoro grunted. That's barely a drawing. I'd like to see you do much better. I would if I knew what the guy looked like. You are both being childish, Sanji sighed as Robin giggled behind her hand. She turned her attention from the argument to the buildings, musing on the rumors her bloomed ears had heard about these legendary fairies, supposedly at fault for the thefts. The descriptions tickled something in the back of her mind, one of the old stories she'd heard a long time ago unconnected to the Void Century, but she could not place her finger on it. Robin, look at that, Chopper whispered, gesturing with his nose toward a beautiful building. It was a church, Robin concluded, based on the architecture, and one built only a few years ago. The base was old, however, so the church was more than likely rebuilt recently, or possibly remodeled. What a splendid church, she nodded. I wonder how long it's been since it hosted a funeral. Robin Schwan is beautiful when she thinking about dreary services, Sanji noodled. The group paused as the crewmates' den began to ring. Excuse me, sir, Mary asked, raising a hand at the dockworker on his lunch break. He, a great, burly man with a web of scars up one arm, and his shorter co-worker turned to the girl who had called. Mary tipped her behatted head cutely. My friends and I just got here after a big storm. Can you tell us about this island? That ain't part of my payroll, one of the men grunted, looking down at his meager lunch. It was the same thing he remembered having every day, but it hadn't felt right the last couple weeks. Why, however, was a question with no answer. Get out of here, girl, the other, shorter man said. These docks aren't a pretty place. But my friends and I are looking for something, Mary tried. Pirates took something from one of us and we managed to follow them here. Any idea where we might be able to get a lead on where it could have gone? The dockhands glanced at each other, that sense of loss tugging at a string inside the heart of the scarred man for reasons he could not name. He stared into the horned girl's eyes before sighing. Look, he muttered. If I tell you somewhere you can look, you've got to promise not to go there alone, okay? It's a place for bad people who do bad things, but stolen stuff passes through there sometimes. They might know. I promise, Mary nodded. All right, there's a bar at the far end of the dock, on the end of Fleet Street. It's not quite big, but it's easy to miss if you aren't looking for it. They don't ask questions if you've got enough money. They might know about whatever you're looking for. Thank you so much, Mary turned and skipped away, the dockhands watching her until her baseball cap was lost in the crowd. Mary found Frankie first, the Klabouterman grabbing his arm and dragging him away from the toy he was talking to with a strength unbecoming of her small frame. Usopp and Kaku were together, trying to convince a small group of passers-by that they were not, in fact, a comedic pair of brothers doing an act for whatever reason. Besides the nose, they didn't even look that alike to begin with. I think I've got a place to get some info, Mary told them. These dockhands knew about this shady bar at the end of the docks. It's not going to get us anything about Traffy's heart, but we might get some info on where the sad went once it got here. You think so? Kaku asked. We might as well supercover our bases, Frankie shrugged. We might be surprised. I doubt that, Usopp sighed, running a hand down his face. Well, it'll be better than walking the docks. I feel like someone's watching me here. That's because they have been, Kaku offered. Usopp's eyes widened as he turned to the ex-assassin. They're good, too. Slippery as eels. But CP9 has a whole lot more training. I sniffed him out in an instant.
The bar is this way, Mary said, leadiest. So Kaku, who's on our tails?
I suspect they're soldiers, the zone replied. If Doflamingo suspects we're coming, he's probably got the army zapped for us. That would make sense, Frankie commented, a hand on his chin as he rolled along on tire treads on his shins, putting him closer to eye level with his companions. I wonder if he's got the army looking for us. Does he actually think we're a super threat? I don't think so, Mary said, shaking her head, based on Traffy's words. I bet Mingo's more the kind to corral us towards some entertaining trap he's set up. If he thinks he can take us down, he'll want to make a spectacle of it. I've never met Doflamingo, Kaku muttered, rubbing his chin. Actually, the only warlord I've seen was Mahawk. He came through a town where we were conducting a sting operation about a decade ago. Slaughtered the devil fruit smugglers we were after and left without even acknowledging us, if he noticed at all. That was where Jabra got his fruit, actually. Super scary, Frankie commented. That's an understatement, Usopp shivered. You weren't there when Zoro tried to challenge Mahawk back in the East Blue. The guy cut a pirate battleship into 3 pieces without anyone knowing he was there, then took on Zoro with a butter knife he kept in his necklace after saying he was sorry for not having anything smaller. Zoro's a whole lot better now, though, Mary grinned, stopping. Hey, we're here. She pointed at a warehouse similar to others along the dock. The only thing making this one stand out being a small open sign by the open door and the rowdy laughter coming from within. The pirates exchanged glances before they followed Mary into the building. The lighting left a lot to be desired, but that was probably for the best considering what sort of establishment the bar seemed to be. Where the outside looked like a warehouse, the inside had been refurbished to be more like a tavern, stairs leading up to a second floor on one side. The rooms there were built over what Mary suspected was a storage room that doubled as a VIP or meeting room. The rest of the area around the bar's counter had tables and chairs that were half full, the scent of cigarettes and booze hanging heavy in the air. The bartender, an old man of wide shoulders and gray hair, cleaned a glass that looked like it would be better off thrown away. Ellie knew. They could hear a man saying, "One job made us filthy stinkin' rich. I told you accepting that job from Doflamingo would be the best choice we ever made. Now we're rolling in all the so-called dinero y coño de Dressrosa we could ever want. Viva Dressrosa, baby." Captain. Mary turned to see a pirate decorated in jewelry. A mug of some spirits raised as a pair of pretty women leaned on either side. Men whom Mary suspected were his crewmates each had at least one woman of their own, all of them also decorated with necklaces, rings, and a full set of gold teeth in one instance. The captain of this group had curly, citrine hair that rolled down his back from a tricorn cap of red matched by his oversized coat. 2 sideburns running down his face to merge into an impressive beard. He wore no shirt, showing off his scar and tattoo-covered torso. One of the sultry women tracing said scars and ink as she, probably, tried to coax him into buying her more stuff. One man in this group, however, didn't seem to fit in. He lacked jewels, women, and drink, the man sitting at the table with one arm slung over the back of his chair, the other twiddling a gold coin through his fingers. He was much younger than all the decorated men around him, perhaps the same age as the women if not younger. His skin was of an olive complexion, his features almost elfish with a disinterested grin. He had black hair and eyes, nodding along to the pirate captain's words without care. Their table was covered in half-eaten food, a tray of fruit stacked in the center. "And it's all thanks to you, friend. Now, no need to be modest," the undecorated man replied. "It was a hard job, you know. The last 2 groups didn't come back." "Well yeah, we had to kill one of them," the captain laughed, downing the rest of his drink. Mary, Frankie, Usopp, and Kaku shuffled to an empty table, their ears straining for all the conversations in the place. "I'll admit, we were tempted to run off with those prizes ourselves, you know." "I'm sure glad we didn't," one of the pirates called, raising his mug. "Money's way better than some stupid power." "Speak for yourself," another laughed. "Now I've got both. And can't swim, like a rock," a third needled. "Guess that works, since you've got the brains of one, too." The tipsy captain grinned at his squabbling men, unaware that the rings on his right hand were now missing. "What was it you brought in, anyway?" the blonde on the captain's left shoulder asked, trailing a finger down his chest. "Doflamingo paid us good money if we could bring in a pair of devil fruits for him," the captain answered. "Guess he didn't want to put any of his own guys at risk." "Must have been some powerful devil fruits," the brunette on his right muttered. "Powerful?" the captain grinned. "Try legendary. I'd have eaten one of those fruits myself if Doflamingo wasn't paying so much for them. We've got enough to buy a small country for ourselves." "What were they?" "The fire logia and a paramecia, the legendary power of Whitebeard himself." Usopp choked on his own spit, Mary slapping him on the back as he coughed. "You know," the plan-dressed man began, waving to the bartender. "You still have a chance to claim one of those powers for yourself." "Really?" the captain questioned, shaking the women off him to lean forward. "Do tell."
"Their prizes in the Corrida Coliseum today. The 2 who win get to eat the fruits and join the ranks of the Don Quixote Familia. What do you think? Is that worth it?"
The man hummed, shaking his head to the side as he thought. "Nah. I'm perfectly content with all this money and permission to have free reign of Dressrosa. He licked his lips. All the women here and no consequences by order of the king. Who needs a devil fruit when I've already got that? Oh, I see. The olive-skinned man leaned back, almost disappointed. The bartender arrived, placing a new round of drinks on the table. The young man took one, prompting the pirates to do the same. He raised his mug as the bartender nodded. Here's to your long and happy lives, gentlemen. Hear, hear, the pirates cheered, chugging their drinks. The young man did not. Ah, that's the good shit. The captain grinned, slamming his mug down and wiping his mouth with the back of his hand. No more cheap booze for me. I'm drinking the good stuff for the rest of my, he coughed, a spray of red splattering the table. The women recoiled as the rest of the pirates at the table doubled over, grasping at their stomachs and mouths. Blood dripped from their lips and between their fingers, dropping to the ground as the young man smiled. You chaps played your parts well, he said, a grin on his face as the first pirate fell from his chair, slumping onto the floor in a boneless heap. Of course, we can't have you causing any problems for Joker. I'm afraid your ends are sealed. You betrayed us, the captain coughed, struggling to breathe as more of his men died to the poisoned booze. The man with the devil fruit power tried to stand, his body beginning to morph into something taller, only for the olive-skinned man to blur behind him, grabbing his throat. Kangaroo, That brings back memories. Well, whatever. I'm sure Joker can find a buyer. Too bad for you. Your window of opportunity is shut and locked. He dragged his hand across the zone's throat quickly, opening cuts with transformed fingers. The zone choked, his body changing back to normal, leaving only the captain of the pirates clinging to life. The women seemed almost bored, apparently having been in on the plot. You, bastard, the captain growled, his blood staining his beard a deep red. He reacted hand shaky. A plum in the stack of fruit started to deform. Come now, the young man laughed, blurring forward. He caught the barrel of the gun between two fingers shaped like keys molded to its curve, holding the weapon away from his face. Did you really think we'd let you walk away with that much of Joker's money? You should have taken the opportunity with the Colosseum. That would have been your chance to survive. As it is, you're lucky we locked you in at 48 hours. You son of a, bye, the light faded from the pirate captain's eyes, his body slumping over. The man who'd ordered their deaths eyed the weapon between his fingers with disdain, dropping the gun like it had offended him. He reached down, lifting the plum that had become a devil fruit, the marsupial zone, model, kangaroo, and studied it. It was orange with small swirls tucked into larger half swirls below. Girls, you can have whatever's on them. I don't care. Jenkins, clean up the mess. You'll have your usual rates. As you wish, Master Zeke, the bartender bowed. Would you like to turn in the bodies for their bounties to the Marines on the island? Seems like the whole group was worth a few $100 million. You can if you want. I don't need the cash. The young man turned with a half-hearted wave, his left hand now adorned with the rings the captain had been wearing and holding the devil fruit while the fingers of his other continued to play with the gold coin. He paused, eyeing the straw hats at their table. Got something to say? He questioned. Usopp flinched, placing himself between the man and Mary. The others barely blinked, staring at him. The man shrugged when they didn't respond, walking out of the bar and the group he'd ordered killed without a second look. Did YUCTH that? Usopp stuttered, practically deflating as the man left. IITH thought he was GG gonna kill us, T2. We could take him, Mary grinned, punching her own palm. Did you miss the important part of that conversation? Kaku questioned. Which part in Terabang? Usopp squeaked. When he murdered them or when he said he didn't need the money in Terabang? What they brought back for Doflamingo, Kaku pressed. The captain said they brought back the flame and quake devil fruits. That's huge. He's right, Mary agreed. Contacts told Boss Iceberg the Navy's been trying to track those fruits down since the War of the Best with no luck. The fact that Mingo has them now could be a problem. And Captain Luffy'll be chomping at the bit soon as he hears about his brother's fruit being on the island. Has Doflamingo been expecting us? Frankie wondered. It's too much of a coincidence. What are the odds he would get his hands on one of the only devil fruits that used to super belong to our captain's brother? And to make it a prize the day we arrive? Luffy's gonna learn about it one way or another, Mary said. We better get in contact with him. C-C, can we leave? Usopp begged. My and I'm gonna throw up syndrome is starting to act up. Didn't you and Mrs. Nami meet up in a bar with a dead body on Sabaody? I mean, yeah, but I didn't watch that guy die. I'm with long nose on this one. Kaku nodded, ignoring that his nose was just as long. I would much rather skedaddle now while we've got the chance. I'll put out the call, Frankie said as they left. The pirates practically scurried out the door, the bartender pausing mid-step to their table to take their orders. He raised an eyebrow at their behavior before shrugging to himself. Whatever was up with them, it was none of his business. They hadn't paid him to care one way or another. Still, it was a shame they'd left so soon. He just put a couple new meat pies in to cook with the freshest meat one could get. Oh well. At least he had a payday from the Marines in his future. Master Zeke was good like that when he was around. This better be important. Nami panted, ace in one hand and her den in the other as she tried to chase after Luffy. The pirate captain in turn chasing after the so-called ferry that had nicked the navigator's purse and perfect climate tact along with a number of other items from the patrons of the restaurant. Needless to say, Nami didn't really care about the other people's items, but her climate tact was kind of important. Thank you very much. We're in the middle of a chase right now. What, already in Terabang? Coby gasped. I thought we were trying to be discreet. We're doing the chasing, Uncle Coby, Ace supplied. Some fairy meanies stole from Mommy. Fairies, you say? Robin asked. Have you, by chance, seen what these fairies look like? Nope. Sorry, Auntie Robin Sensei. It's just a bouncy bag. Interesting. What's interesting? Coby questioned, the snail blinking slowly in the same manner as the Rosset whose voice it was transmitting. The snail's eyes shifted to those of Mary, the Klabouterman interrupting. Forget the discount fairies. We found something Captain Luffy's gonna wanna know. Well, he's a bit busy at the moment, Nami commented, watching as her husband dove for the little thief. Said thief? Or at least the bag that hid the fairy beneath, jumped upward so it landed on Luffy's back. The captain growled, rolling over as the bag scurried away. I'll pass along the message. That might be for the best, Usopp said. Soon as Luffy hears this, he's gonna drop everything else. Just spit it out already. His brother's fruit is here, Mary told her, all sound on the other ends of the line going quiet. It and Whitebeard's quake fruit are prizes for today's matches in the Colosseum. How? The navigator squeaked. How? Where did you learn that? We super overheard a conversation with the guys Doflamingo tasked with getting them. Right before one of Doflamingo's guys. Usopp trailed off, remembering that the captain's son was listening on the other side. Put them to sleep. Oh, Nami breathed, understanding the euphemism, I see. I hope those guys get some good sleep, Ace commented. If they're asleep, we don't gotta beat 'em up.
Yes, I agree, Robin supplied, quickly nudging the conversation away from such dangerous, and frankly finished, topics. Moreover, how shall we revise our plan around this new information? Captain will, undoubtedly, move to gain his late brother's devil fruit by any means necessary without regard to plans nor consequences.
According to what we heard, Usopp suppled, they're going to be the prizes for the winners in the Kurita Coliseum. And they're then expected to join the Doflamingo Pirates. Don Quixote Familia, Law corrected. We heard about that, too, Amy muttered. The toy we talked to didn't know what the prizes were, but it did say today's fights would be special. Speaking of the toys, Coby piped up, they're not normal. Thanks, Shrimp, Zoro muttered, unable to keep the sarcasm out of his voice, we didn't notice. That's not what I mean, the Rosset shot back. I mean, they feel twisted. Sad, angry, confused. Practically every emotion except the fake happiness they're showing. Whatever these toys are, I don't think they started out that way. My group shall look into the matter, Robin offered, Sanji voicing his eager agreement in the background. But we must find Kanjuro, Kinemon protested. This is our best lead thus far, Robin argued. It is just as likely Kanjuro has become one of these toys than any other possibility. Coming back around to the fruits, Nami said, I'd like one or two of our stronger fighters to go with Luffy. If we can't steal his brother's fruit, I'd like to increase our odds of winning it. Jin and I can go, Amy said, but Law tried to protest. We aren't nearly as stealthy as Grace and can't feel souls or whatever like Pinky, so we really aren't that much help for infiltration, but a good old brawl is a different matter. Since Luffy's going to ditch me for the Colosseum, Nami thought aloud, I've suddenly got some free time. I could join you guys at the castle. Sounds like a plan, Coby said, the snail mimicking his nod. I'll direct us to you once you get close enough. Oh, Ace called. I want to go with Daddy. I want to see all the strong people fight so I can get stronger, too. That's Nami blinked. Now hold on. Your father, Jin, and Amy are all going to be in the fights. You would be in the stands, and that means you can't go unless you have a babysitter. I'll go, Mary offered instantly. I can make it to the Colosseum fast if I leave right now. And with my crew sense, I can pick him up without having to look. Or you can send him with Captain Luffy and I can meet them outside.
Yay, Ace cheered. Colosso fighty time. And to assuage Koby's concerns, Robin said, our group can investigate the origins of these toys and if they will be a danger.
We cannot. Kinemon tried to protest. We must find Kanjuro. He could be a toy or something for all we know, Zoro argued, the snail rolling one eye in mimicry of Zoro.
Thank you, Robin, Coby nodded, ignoring his teacher and the samurai. They all apparently live in this place called the toy house at the base of the castle, so we'll be nearby if something happens while you're there. If you need us, just, I don't know, blow something up, I guess.
That sounds like the best place to start, thank you. You must find information on the factory first, Law growled. The toys are no concern of ours. We can look for the factory, Usopp said. Someone at the docks has to know something, if that sad stuff was shipped in. Very good, Nami nodded. Any update from Sunny?
It is all quiet here, Brooke reported. There are a surprising number of pirate ships and a fair number of partial wood ferries according to Sunny. We cannot identify any of the flags, however.
Could they be super connected to Doflamingo? Frankie wondered aloud. They might be here for the tournament, Nami considered. I didn't recognize any of the ships, but that doesn't mean much considering Hody prevented a lot of crews from reaching the New World through Fishman Island, Mary said. I'll see if there's a list when I get to the Coliseum and check if I recognize any names. Gotcha, Luffy yelled, pulling Nami and Ace's attentions from the call. The father of their little family stood triumphant in the middle of the street. Nami's purse held high in one hand while the bundle that was the ferry's other stolen goods bounced several feet away. Whatever the ferry was, it seemed to think cutting its losses was the better choice, the bag and whatever was carrying it scampering away before Luffy could get the bright idea to try for any more of its goodies. Ignoring the fleeing ferry, Luffy walked his way over to his wife and son, a satisfied smile on his face as he offered the reacquired bag. That ferry was tricky, but I got your purse back like I said I would. Thank you, Luffy, Nami grinned, accepting the accessory. She checked its insides quickly, confirming that the pieces of her perfect Klima tact were still inside. Here, hold Ace for a minute. Daddy. The boy smiled, wrapping his arms around the captain's neck. We're gonna meet Marion, Uncle Jin and Auntie Amy and go to the Colosso. Sounds like fun. Luffy nodded. He blinked. Why?
Luffy, Nami said, hanging up the call. You're going to want to hear this. Before that, I'm going to join Coby, Grace, and Law and help them break into the castle, so you don't have to worry about me. Okay.
Okay, they're having a fighting competition in the Coliseum today. They have 2 prizes, a pair of devil fruits. One belonged to Whitebeard. The other, Nami swallowed. The other belonged to your brother. Now before you go running off, remember no one is supposed to know we're here. When you enter the competition, do not use your real name, got it? They have Ace's fruit, Luffy blinked. It's a prize?
N's surprise and joviality drained away, his expression settling into one of determination.
Just remember, she said. You can get it, but don't let anyone know it's you. Amy and Jin will be there to help and Mary's going to watch Ace. Now, she grinned, go kick some butt.
That fruit is mean, Luffy roared, charging off in a random direction with Ace holding on for dear life. The woman sighed as they turned a corner. She wasn't sure if they were going in the right direction, but she trusted he'd find his way to the Coliseum one way or another. Shaking her head, Nami checked her surroundings for a view of the castle. She could just barely make out the top of its outline to the north, the navigator heading that direction at a jog. Coby, Grace, and Law should find her when she got close enough. The snail clicked as Nami hung up. Robin shrugged, surmising they had discussed everything they needed to and put her own snail to sleep as well. We do not have time for this, Kinemon complained. Finding Kanjuro should be our primary mission. And like I've said, we don't have the first clue where to look for him, Zoro replied. At least this way, we might find a clue. Like you're one to talk about finding anything, Sanji muttered. You couldn't find your way out of a wet paper bag. What did you just say to me, you swirly-browed bastard? We need to get moving, Chopper insisted, walking toward the castle at Robin's gesture. Coby said the toy house was at the base of the castle. Yes? In that case, we have a direction to go. Zoro paused, his good eye turning slowly. We're being followed, he muttered, his voice low. I don't know who by, but there aren't. Could it be lesser members of Doflamingo's crew? Robin wondered, keeping her demeanor relaxed as unwanted memories of being followed and chased in her younger years reminded her of the best practices for escape. I don't know, but they don't feel all that strong. Any of us could take them easily. In that case, they are of no concern, Kinemon nodded. So let me see if I remember what you said, Sanji breathed, smoke dispersing from his breath. You and Kanjuro split up while looking for Momo. You followed the ship directly while Kanjuro came here as insurance? Yes, the samurai nodded. This seemed like a likely landing spot for the ship and my vessel was not as sound as the kidnappers. Should I have been lost at sea, we hoped Kanjuro would find Momonosuke here. We knew not about Punk Hazard at that time. And you don't have any way to contact him? Well, Kinemon's shoulders slumped. No? You realize how bad a plan that was, right? Poor planning or no, we must work within the ramifications of their decisions, Robin put in. Unfortunately, I predict Dressrosa is much larger than either samurai predicted. It is one of the larger islands we have visited in the short time we've had, Kinemon admitted. And with your drawing skills, there's no chance asking any of the locals will help, Zoro said. Kanjuro is rather memorable, the samurai tried, though he didn't seem that sure of himself. The only identifying characteristics he has are long red hair, kabuki makeup, very colorful clothing, and a large paintbrush that acts as the sheath for his katana. The pirates stared at him, each and every one blinking slowly. Oh, that's it, is it? Sanji groused around his cigarette. A guy like that would stand out in a circus. Why didn't you say any of that sooner?
Though it was rather obvious from my drawing. Robin closed her eyes and sighed, pinching the skin between her eyes. Some stupidity could be endearing and she'd become rather used to such during the time with her crew. This was not the kind of stupidity. I will keep my eyes open for a character of that description, she offered. May we continue on our way? I suppose, Kinnaman conceded. The group continued in silence, their eyes watching for anything out of the ordinary. Flamenco dancers showed their skills as mariachi played their tunes, filling the streets of Dressrosa with music and life. If the Straw Hats had not come with law or known who the ruler was, they never would have thought anything was amiss in the kingdom. Honestly, it's almost unsettling, Chopper commented. The toys act so much like humans, but from what Coby said. We will help them, Robin insisted, patting Chopper's neck. The base of the castle plateau rose from the houses and buildings above them, looming larger with each step. Soon, there were no obstructions to block their view as they eyed the cliff and the buildings at its base. One of said buildings caught their attention. It was wide, seemingly more like 3 massive warehouses connected at the sides but distinctive by the heights of their roofs. Said roofs were jagged things, coming to points and dropping off repeatedly as if they were meant to break the wind. A pair of smokestacks rose from the right side of the building, pumping out smoke that blew away and dispersed before coming close to the castle above. The words Toy House were printed on the building in big, red letters.
This looks like the place, Sanji commented. I'm guessing we can't just waltz up to the door and they'll let us in. Probably not, Zoro agreed. But it looks like those guys have access. He pointed, directing the others' attentions to a group of men unloading a number of pallets from a massive horse-drawn carriage. A number of soldiers stood around them, blocking off any passerby from thinking they had any sort of path inside. Not a bad idea, Mosshead, Sanji admitted. We just have to deal with the guys following us first. Although, those guys have guards dressed the same way as our guys.
You all thinking what I'm thinking? Zoro asked with a smirk. I know their present locations nearby, Robin agreed. Obtaining those outfits will be simple. Looks like we're getting changed, Sanji nodded. Let's go.
Well, I'm off, Mary said as their call ended, the Cloboterman only giving a backward wave as she took off deeper into the city.
Usopp called, but she was already turning a corner. The sniper sighed, lowering his arm. They grow up so fast. She's a super pirate wood fairy from our crew, sniper bro, Frankie commented. What else would you expect?
I don't know. A hug goodbye, maybe. You can be a real bummer, you know that. Kaku commented. Mary'll be fine. She might look soft as a sheep, but she's slippery as an eel and hits harder than a brick.
I know that, Usopp admitted. It's just she's a reminder of home, right? Frankie finished. You told me before Mary Super came from your home island and it was you that cared for her until you guys reached Water 7. You still feel responsible for her even after she manifested.
You don't need to smother her so much, though, Kaku put in. Moreover, we haven't got a single clue about where to start looking for this factory Jazz.
I doubt it's going to be at the docks, the cyborg thought aloud. If I was building a secret factory, I'd super hide it as something else in a place without a lot of foot traffic. The docks have way too much of that and is not easily defended. Then I guess we need to head deeper into the city, Usopp agreed. The others nodded, the now trio heading toward the main path into Acacia. Usopp and Frankie threw a couple of waves toward those on the sunny. Billy holding the dragon egg in a pouch close to his chest as he roosted on the top of the crow's nest. The 3 pirates were so absorbed in how they would go about locating the Smile Factory, they barely glanced at the rather rotund woman in the navy blue dress with orange flowers decorating it and the men in black clothing that followed her. Nor did they see how her eyes locked onto the straw hat flag in the bay, a grin coming to her face. Coby, Grace, and Law found Nami counting money, the young mother with a satisfied smile on her face. She looked up as they approached, tucking the money into her purse. Nami, what was that? The Rosset questioned Coby. Why were you counting money like it was new? Because it is. I needed to make sure my skills haven't gotten rusty considering I've been more focused on Grand Line Weather and Ace these last couple of years. I can't let Grace get ahead of me.
Coby sighed, biting back his personal views of justice. He just hoped she didn't steal from anyone who couldn't afford to lose. Luckily, the country at large seemed pretty wealthy and he figured Nami would only steal from those who looked like they had more money than sense. This, however, was cold comfort since he was pretty sure the people of Dressrosa were innocent of anything other than being manipulated. Law flinched, his hand coming up to his chest as he pressed his other against the nearest wall, using the bricks to support him. He grunted, trying to control his breathing as, somewhere, Doflamingo squeezed his heart. You okay, Law? Grace asked as the former warlord's breath eased. They aren't as frequent now as they were on the way in, the man said. We can only hope Doflamingo isn't carrying my heart around. What are the odds of that? Nami asked. Honestly, pretty low, Law admitted. A toy like that, he'd want to keep it close to him at the very least. You haven't sent us on a suicide mission, have you? Coby demanded. Come on, we can do this, Nami nodded. We don't have to beat Doflamingo.
We just have to distract him long enough to get Law's heart. After that, he can warp us out and we can make a run for it. Easier said than done, Grace muttered, putting her sketchbook away. Alright, Law. You got this grudge against Doflamingo and all, but do you have a way into the castle? Well, it's on top of a plateau so those inside can overlook the rest of the island. Getting up there without being seen will be a challenge. My runes could get us up there, but others can see them and it would cause a stir. Assuming we get up there, what are the ways into the castle? Coby asked. Other than the front door, I mean.
There's the servants' entrance, Law recalled. There are also a number of secret entrances and exits for the royal family in case of an emergency, but only one that I know of can be accessed from the outside. There's also an underground. It's a supply route so provisions and foodstuffs don't need to be carried up the stairs or lifted up the cliff where others could see. The others blinked, unsure why he seemed so knowledgeable about Dressrosa Castle.
Would you be able to get us to that secret entrance if we can get up to the top of the plateau? Grace questioned. Probably. Why? Do you have a technique that allows you to manipulate the perceptions of those around you? As a matter of fact, I do, the young woman grinned. As you may or may not recall, my epithet was Mood Painter when I first got my bounty. That was quite literal, and my ability to manipulate the human body has only grown since then. Allow me to introduce you to Illusion Indigo. Grace waved her hand beside her thigh, a small stream of indigo paint flowing from a pouch hidden under her clothing. It condensed into a ball smaller than a marble. She rolled it between her fingers. This little baby causes those who breathe it in to go into a sort of trance. It blips out of their memory and the brain fills in the gap by assuming nothing changed. With this, we can walk right by any guards at the stairs. What a useful ability. The chem fruit has a lot of uses for a chemist like me, Grace nodded. Now then, let's get moving. The sooner we get your heart back, the less you have to deal with Doflamingo squeezing it and the sooner we can celebrate. Amy, Jen, and Mary all beat Luffy to the Colosseum, but considering how lost he got on the way, that wasn't really a surprise. Luffy skid to a stop beside them, panting, and Ace climbed down from his shoulder. Is it true? Luffy demanded. My brother's devil fruit is here? Seems like it, Mary confirmed, gesturing with her thumb over her shoulder toward the door where a woman in a black bikini and a gladiator mask was accepting new challengers and directing them into the building. That's what everyone's saying. The current sign-up list has almost 800 names already and there's a line to get in. I recognized a few names on there, but no one you all need to worry about. Your biggest concern should be getting found out. Well, let's hurry up, the captain replied, already moving toward the line. Jen and Amy shared a look with Mary, the Klabouterman putting Ace on her shoulders. She nodded to the pair, trusting them with Luffy's safety, before carrying Ace toward the spectator entrance. She paused, however, at the sound of several pops. She and Ace turned to see a toy soldier with a single leg on a roller skate. His toy gun pointed at a group of children. His body was painted to look like a red coat and his head was tall, painted to appear like a black helmet.
Be gone, all of you. The toy soldier insisted with a rather thick accent Mary guessed was native. This is no place for children. People are going to die here today, and that is not something you need to see. Go home.
I thought toys were supposed to be fun, one of the children complained. We just wanted to watch the fights. The ruler using these deadly fights as entertainment is a barbaric practice, the soldier argued. The Colosseum is not what it used to be, children, and you have no place here. Pop, pop. The children ran, whining about mean toys. The soldier let out something like a sigh and turned, his inorganic eyes landing on Mary and Ace. You there, he yelled, skating toward them. What do you think you are doing? This place is not fit for children, take him away.
No way, soldier guy. Ace denied. Daddy, auntie, and uncle are fighting in there today.
You have family competing? That. The toy looked away, shaking his head quickly. No, that is no excuse. Children should not be here for such a gruesome sport. You're not going to stop us, Mary said. Captain's son wants to watch him compete. You have no say over either of us. But we don't have to listen to you. Mary walked around the toy, said soldier gaping at the unconcerned audacity of this person. Come on, Ace. Let's go get some good seats. Do you not understand what I am saying? The toy demanded, blocking their path again. Children should not be here. I even hesitate to let you in, miss. You can barely be an adult yourself. You can't stop us, so don't make me force my way past you. We know what we're going to see, but Ace wants to see Captain fight. Step aside. If the soldier's face could move, Mary imagined it would have looked angry or annoyed. As it was, she was forced to rely on basic body reading as the toy hopped aside. Do not say I did not warn you, but if any soldiers ask you to go with them, do not. There is much about this place that you cannot know. Yeah, thanks for the tip. Mary watched as the soldier caught sight of another group of unaccompanied children trying to sneak into the Colosseum, quickly going after them. The short conversation had tied a knot in her gut, and she trusted her gut. There was more to this Colosseum than there appeared, she was certain. A distance away, the monk and chocolatier stepped into the line, the latter leaning over Luffy's shoulder. "We can't use our real names," she whispered. "If we get found out, we might get thrown out or arrested." "That's easy," Luffy waved off. "I'll be Lucy, you can be MUC, and Jin can be Goosey." "Those are terrible names," Amy denied, Jin giving an unseen nod. "Why don't we go with Lucy, Coco, and Rum?" "Y'all want me to be Rum?" Jin blinked. "Why not?" Amy shrugged, turning an eye on the monk. "It's easy enough to remember." "And, let me guess, Coco, as in chocolate, yeah? So it's not the most inspired name, it's at least better than MUC. I'll give ya that one." He blinked. "The Don's gone off without us." "Of course he has," Amy sighed, rubbing her temple. Their fake names decided, the pair stood a few minutes in the line, keeping IR Captain ahead. Thankfully, the woman running the table didn't react to the name he gave, so they could only trust he followed the plan, as hard as that was to believe. Pretty soon, it was their turn, Jin allowing Amy to go first. "Name?" the woman behind the table asked, clearly bored. She was massaging her writing hand.
"Name's Coco, sweetheart," Amy replied in a voice deeper than her usual. She winked.
"Listen, this is a gladiator battle. People are going to die today in that arena. If you're looking for the spectator entrance. No way. I'm here to fight. I have to prove these muscleheads aren't the only ones who can win a fight."
"You're fighting in that." Amy looked down at her yellow dress, thinking. "If there's a changing area, I'd use it, but I can fight in this if need be."
"Alright," the woman sighed, leaning her head on one of her hands while the other pushed a couple papers. She wasn't paid enough to stop every idiot who would clearly die. "There is a changing area. Sign here. It just says Dressrosa and the Corrida Coliseum are not liable for your death should you be killed and that you entered the competition with full knowledge about the risks. Blah blah blah." Amy wondered how many times the woman had had to give that spiel as she signed the papers with her fake name. As the blonde returned to Quill, and wasn't that old-fashioned, she asked, "How many are in this competition, anyway?" "We're expecting something like 800 or 900. If that's all, please follow Stella here. She'll show you to the waiting area and the changing rooms. You'll be fighting in Block F. Good luck."
"Why, thank you, but I don't need it." Amy sent her one more wink before following the other woman into the building. Jin watched her go before stepping up to the table.
"Name? Rum of Vergio," Jin answered, keeping his accent suppressed. "I am here to claim the flame fruit." "Very well. Sign this waiver saying Dressrosa and the Corrida Coliseum are not responsible in the event you die. You will be fighting in Block G. Please follow Aqua here. She will lead you to the waiting area." "Thank you, miss." Jin gave a respectful bow and followed the woman, Aqua, into the Coliseum. She had blue hair, was dressed in the same skimpy attire as the rest of the female staff, but the man's eyes were more focused on the walls and construction. The building was old, much older than the rest of the buildings they'd seen by a fair margin. "Pardon," Jin said, getting his guide's attention. "If you would be so kind, could you please explain the rules of the tournament?" "You didn't read the posters then," the woman muttered with a shake of her head. "The tournament will have 8 brackets of about 100 competitors each. Of those, only one will move on. Once those 8 brackets have concluded, we'll begin the second round, which will consist of 2 4-person battles, of which there will be only one winner each. In the third round, the remaining 2 fighters will have already won, but they will compete for first choice at the prizes. The winner gets to pick which devil fruit they want, second place gets the other. Then even if you receive second," Jin thought aloud, "there is still a chance you may get the fruit you want anyway, but the only guarantee is to win." "That's right, but you'll have to struggle to get there." Aqua glanced over her shoulder, taking in the man's beard. "For your sake, I'd suggest you drop out. You seem a bit old." "You need not concern yourself with my sake," the pirate said. The pair exited the corridor into a large room filled with fighters of all shapes and sizes. Most were men of the muscular variety, everywhere from 4 feet to pushing 20, but there were a small number of women among the competitors. It was difficult for any one person to stand out of the lineup, but a number of people stood in small, separated groups or had an air of silent confidence.
"Now this is my kind of place," Jin heard Luffy say in what he guessed was supposed to be an elderly voice. "Only thing that'd make it better is a buffet."
"The winners get to join the Don Quixote Familia as officers," the woman escorting Luffy commented. "They have the best chefs of the island cooking for them in the castle." "Sounds tasty. What's with this old guy?" one of the competitors demanded, Jin turning to see there was a man staring down on him. His 12-foot frame rippled with muscle. Others whispered about the man being Spartan, a favorite to win the competition. "Hey, get lost, old man. This is no place for frail grandpas."
Jin glanced around, only to see no one near him. He pointed at himself.
"Pardon, are you referring to me?" Jin asked. "I assure you, I am not as old as I appear."
"Get lost." Spartan swung a fist down, ready to crush Jin into the flooring, but the pirate raised an arm. Armament hockey coated the limb a shiny black, his feet sliding a few inches but his stance unchanged even as the gladiator's fingers gave a horrible crunch. Spartan screamed, clutching the hand with now broken fingers. What is the meaning of this interrobang? An official demanded, the man walking up with a clipboard in one hand. Who started this fight? It was the big guy, a woman said. Jin and the official turned to see a pair of women, siblings if the pirate had to guess. They both stood at almost 6 feet, one with short hair a darker purple blue and the other with hair a light purple.
The first was dressed in a skin-tight, fuchsia bodysuit, the upper arms on the sleeves missing, and a sword with a golden guard and blue wrapping on the hilt hung at her hip. She had a pink flower in her hair and had large brown eyes. Her sister stood beside her with arms crossed. She wore less clothing, only a red band around her chest and a short, pink skirt with a loose belt lined with fangs. A lime green coat was open, showing the woman's slim midriff and hanging to her long legs. Her purple hair fanned out to either direction, smirk plain under her slanted eyes.
Spartan decided to attack that man believing he was too old for this tournament, the first woman continued. Clearly, he didn't understand the respect elders are due. Only the strong reach such years in this sea.
With brains like that, it's clear he wasn't going to make it past the first round anyway, the other sister shrugged. Probably won't make it past 35, either.
I see, the official commented with a frown. If that's the case, Spartan is disqualified from the tournament. He waved his hand, a pair of tall, muscular guards walking in. One reached upward, smashing a fist into the back of Spartan's head. The gladiator's eyes rolled into the back of his head, the two men them dragging his unconscious form away. Our apologies for the inconvenience, he checked the name tag on Jin's shirt. Please do not get into any other fights. I trust that will not happen, Jin nodded. He glanced at the women, stepping toward them. Thank you for your words.
Think nothing of it, the first waved. Only fools pick fights they cannot win, and only the stupid cannot see who is above them. You're stronger than you appear, the other added, eyeing the disguised pirate. You looking for a wife? We've got a few sisters that would be interested in a man of your caliber. A kind offer, but I'm afraid I have no time for such things, Jin denied. A shame, the first sighed, offering her hand. I'm Custard, and this is my sister Angel. Jin said, accepting the hand. Her grip was far stronger than her frame suggested it should be. Across the room and stepping out of the changing room with shorts and leather armor to replace her dress, Amy felt her eyes widen in fear. She quickly ducked back into the changing room, shoving her back against the door. Shit, she hissed, trying to slow her now racing heart. What are they doing here? Why are they here? Why are they talking to him?
Their mission to the Colosseum just got a lot harder, Amy thought. After all, among the fighters were a pair of Mama's daughters. If they recognized her, that would open ally wanted to keep firmly closed.
And if Big Mom had fighters in the Colosseum, what other big-name subordinates could Mary have missed on that list? Momo paced the grass deck, his small arms crossed and a frown on his face. Sunny and Brooke watched him pace with their not eyes, the boy having denied their every attempt to distract him from being left behind on the excursions into the city. Hey, Brooke, Sunny asked. Why don't we get some more practice in?
Yo ho ho. A wonderful idea, Sunny. Perhaps some music could help take Momo's mind off his troubles. I'll go get our instruments. No, let me. Sunny snapped her spectral fingers, and she was ever so excited that she developed her manifestation enough that she could do that, as the door to the lounge opened. Brooke's piano rolled out onto the deck, his violin placed atop in its case. I was hoping you'd say yes, so I prepped. It's wonderful to have another lover of music on this crew, Brooke whispered, and Sunny imagined a smile tugging at his non-existent lips. He sat at the piano as Sunny opened the violin case and levitated the instrument from within. Brooke's bony fingers ran through a couple scales, double-checking the tuning on the piano, as Sunny played with the violin's strings, situating herself so she sat on the piano itself.
The sounds were enough to pull Momonosuke from his thoughts, the boy looking up to see the skeleton sitting at the strange, boxy table from the lounge and the ship's ghost sitting atop it with an instrument. It was stringed like the samisens of Wano but was half the size and with twice as many strings. The boy's eyes widened when the Klabotterman, as he had learned her species was called, raised an odd rod and dragged it across the strings. Rather than breaking the strings, the instrument vibrated, the notes resonating from within. The skeleton seemed to take that as a sign, his scales fading into a tune that seemed familiar. Upbeat music formed between the pair as they came around to the beginning of their song. Yo ho ho ho, yo ho ho, ho, yo ho ho ho, yo ho ho, ho, yo ho ho ho, yo ho ho, ho, yo ho ho ho, yo ho ho, ho. Gather up all of the crew, it's time to ship out Bink's brew. Sea wind blows. To where, who knows? The winds. Wah, Billy screeched from above. Wah 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 wah. Something's happening, Sunny echoed, her music stuttering. What do you? Her words trailed off as pink smoke rose around her hull. She felt her manifestation begin to warp as the same power started to affect her ship. What's happening? This smoke is not natural. Momonosuke gasped as it touched him. He flinched back, but the smoke already began to affect him, his hand turning rigid.
The shock caused him to cry out, his devil fruit powers acting without his control as he turning into his dragon form. Moments later, his entire body was cubical, as if someone had shoved him through a square hole and he maintained that shape. Brook reached for his sword cane only for his fingers to fuse together like mittens, his bones turning soft and rounded. The piano, too, warped, seeming to melt yet still maintaining its shape. The same happened to the violin in Sunny's hands. It fell from her hand as she lost control of her soul's body, its edges extending and contracting into something only vaguely recognizable as humanoid. Her head deformed, taking on a sun motif with a sideways face.
How beautiful, a woman cooed, her face held by her hands as she eyed the abstract art the pirates and child had become. She wore a blue dress with orange flowers and a pair of pointed, red glasses. Her hair was two different colors, red on her right and yellow on the left. Both of them fanned out to the sides. "What did you do to us?" Brook demanded. "I turned you into art," the woman answered. "And what beautiful art you are. Oh, I can't wait to fill this beautiful ship with the art pieces your crewmates become when the young master lets me get my hands on them." "Young?" Sunny asked. "You work for Mingo. That is Doflamingo to you, Wood Fairy." "Wah," Billy Dove, his claws sparking as they aimed for the woman. She gave him a frown as more of the pink smoke emerged from her head where she grabbed it and threw it at the bird. Billy was moving too quick to dodge, the smoke surrounding him. When he emerged, he was little more than a rough sketch of a rubber ducky, the dragon's egg having become a green bell around his neck. Unable to move his wings that were now trapped against his sides, the gigafowl turned art crashed headfirst into the rolling green of the deck and bounced, coming to rest on his side. Momonosuke wisely kept his mouth shut, slinking behind the piano. "You won't get away with this," Sunny growled, "when our captain—" "Oh, but I already have," the woman waved off. "We already have. We know where your captain and where your crewmates are, we know your goals and what you want, and we know that you'll never find them. Honestly, you all were foiled the moment Monet escaped." "Then what is it you want here?" Sunny demanded. "Us? Who even are you?"
"Ah, I haven't introduced myself," the woman realized. "You may call me Jola. Boys, fan out and search the ship. Find that brat." "Ace isn't here," Sunny grunted as the men forced her doors open despite her attempts to stop them. Whatever Jola had done to them, whatever her devil fruit powers were, they were preventing Sunny from manipulating her ship effectively. "We aren't looking for the heir of chaos," Giola waved off. "We're here for the samurai kid. Sending him to Wano will net us a pretty penny more than the smiles alone do." "What brat?" Sunny blinked, feigning ignorance as Momonosuke crawled under the piano, still in his dragon form. "What are you talking about?" "The brat from Wano. The one the samurai serve. I don't know who you're talking about." Jola rubbed her hands together, frowning. Mary shifted, hating the way the men throwing stuff around and rummaging in her insides tickled. She tried not to shift, but the feeling of the lesser pirates inside her rooms was like bugs crawling under her skin. "You can lie all you want, but I'll get the truth out of you soon enough." Sunny swallowed heavily. "All fighters in Block A, please report to the starting gate. I repeat, all fighters in Block A, please report to the starting gate." The announcement from the speakers echoed through the halls of the Colosseum's underground tunnels, turning people's attention from their neighbors to their surroundings. Luffy blinked, tilting his head. His eyes moved to the paper in his hand, reading the words on it. "Fighter. Lucy. Starting match. Block A." His eyes widened. "Crap, I'm not even close to ready." Using shave, he blurred only to reappear with the first helmet and weapon he could grab from the available armory. The pirate captain hurrying to follow the crowd moving toward what he expected to be his immediate competition. "I did not think they would begin so early," Jin said, swallowing his worry for his captain. They were supposed to be fighters who did not know each other, after all. He crossed his arms, checking his sheet just in case. According to the paperwork, he would be fighting in Block G. "They do have 8 blocks to go through," Custard shrugged. "You slipped in with the bell, rum." "Speaking of, you're not from around here, are you?" Angel asked, studying the man. "You don't talk like the locals." "That is true enough," Jin nodded, keeping his own accent in check. "You do not, either. I arrived on a vessel earlier today and joined the tournament on a whim. I intend to gift the prize I win to a friend." "You're sure you'll win but don't want it for yourself?" Custard prompted. "I would gain nothing useful." He left it at that, not wanting to expose the powers that would give him away. He stepped forward and gestured with a hand. "Shall we watch?" "I don't see why not," Angel answered, the trio making their way to the competitors' viewing area. "Seeing as I arrived late," Jin began on their walk, "whom should I keep an eye on?" "There are a lot of interesting names," Custard commented, eyeing the crowd. She pointed at faces or distinctive clothing as they entered their sight. "Those 3 are members of the Chinjiao family. The drill, Don Chinjiao and his grandsons Sai and Bu. Those 2 girls are members of the Crescent Blade Pirates and they have a 3rd heading into the arena right now, though it seems their captain isn't fighting. The ones in the tournament are the Black Cat, the Spartan, and the Gold Dragon. Those 2 are Kelly and Bobby Funk, a pair of ruthless bounty hunters, and there's another pair, Abdullah and Jeet."
They entered under fake names, but there are even commanders from the new Whitebeards here, Angel added, jerking her chin at a shorter man with brown hair and a tan cloak leaning against a wall, his arms crossed. He had a matching fedora with a white feather pulled low over his eyes and a well-polished saber hung at his hip.
That's Swift Saber, Haruta of the 12th Division. We also saw Killer Crossdresser, Izu of the 16th and Flower Sword, Vista of the 5th. I imagine they're here because the devil fruits in question belong to their late crewmates and they want them back. There's also Tank Lepando of the Dressosian Army, Fighting King, Elisabello II of the Prondance Kingdom and his top strategist Dagama, and a number of notable pirate crews. There's even a true giant in his own area waiting for his turn. Sounds like some fierce competition, Jin commented, a touch of his old thirst for blood leaking into his words. A grin tugged at his lips. This may actually be fun.
That's not even including Mama knows how many others who used fake names to hide who they're from the officials like the new Whitebeards, Custard said. She pointed at a buff man with a veil hiding his face and a sword at his hip. He was dressed in what appeared to be a brown uniform, but none of the three could place its origin. I mean, that guy covering his face. Clearly a big name in hiding. They reached the platform, Jin allowing the women to elbow their way to a comfortable position as he easily ignored Rum's sass in his head. The arena below was a circular platform made of the same tan stone that the Colosseum had been constructed from, surrounded on every side with water. The arena filled near to bursting with the competitors from Block A. Jin's eyes instantly picked out Luffy, his captain standing in the middle with a brass helmet and a thin club, the helmet sporting a blue mohawk of plumage that hung down his back. After finding Luffy, he scanned the stands, his eyes eventually finding Mary with Ace on her lap. Hello all and welcome to the Kurita Coliseum, the announcer called, his voice echoing through the open-air stands. People and toys alike cheered. Have we got a show for you, here, today? We have fighters from across the world looking to claim one of two prizes unlike anything else. What's that? You might ask. None other than a pair of devil fruits whose last users shocked and shook the world without even trying. Today's top two fighters will receive the fruits of the notorious Fire Fist, Portgas d'Ace and his captain Edward, Whitebeard, Newgate. The already considerable volume exploded to a new level as the people's surprised whispering turned to more cheering. The master of ceremonies basked in the atmosphere for a minute before waving his hands, shushing the people. For those of you below, the game is simple, last man standing wins. If you fall unconscious, forfeit, cannot move, or you fall into the water, you are eliminated. Obviously, you're also out if you die, but you better watch out. We brought some new friends to play. He threw something out of his box, a raw steak hanging in the air for a moment before gravity took hold. Out of the moat jumped a blue fish large enough to swallow even some of the larger gladiators, a pair of pointed bull horns twisting out of its head. Its razor-sharp teeth snagged the steak only for its landing to be met with more of its kind. They ripped it apart for stealing the morsel, leaving nothing but a disjointed skeleton that slowly sank. The people cheered like savages. That's right, folks, the announcer yelled into the mic. Little fighting fish, native off the coast of Greenbit circa 200 years ago, these predators are ready and willing to devour anyone unlucky enough to fall off the platform. If you hit the water, you're out even if you make it back, however unlikely that is. Now then, let's go over a number of the favorites in this match as they enter the arena, shall we? Interrobang to start. You all know him and love him. Will his horns take the lives of more gladiators today? Interrobang, it's the fighting bull of Kurita. A pair of Colosseum workers in full armor wrestled a massive black bull. Weights wrapped around its neck to keep it down until the match started. It bellowed its cries, its inability to move only making it angrier. Up next, he's a notorious war criminal on the run from his homeland and the world government, but we want to see if he lives up to his epithet. It's the beheader, Suleiman. The man was tall and dressed in dark purple, a bored look on his face hiding in the shade of his black and gold hat with white plumage. He carried a massive saber, the sword sitting comfortably in his left hand as he walked across the bridge to the arena. We're also playing host to a super rookie who sailed into the New World 3 years ago. Women swoon when he even looks in their direction. It's Cavendish of the White Horse. His speech was interrupted as women around the stand swooned as he said they would. Their boyfriends or husbands throwing glares and a number of hostile words at the blonde man on said white horse below. He winked, a number of women, and some men, getting into a fight over whom he winked at. Ahem, the announcer demanded, getting his female aides back in line. Moving on, she and her crewmates escaped from captivity after the Sabaldi incident 2 years ago. It put them in the news and they've been making waves since. It's Black Cat, Belladonna of the Crescent Blade Pirates. The young woman looked to be no older than 30 at the latest, her white clothing tied against her creamy skin contrasting lilac hair. Her top cut off just above her navel, showing a midriff lean with muscle and decorated with white scars. She carried no visible weapon, but she walked with an air of confidence, golden eyes glaring at one of the competitors entering from the other side. And last but certainly not least of the favorites of Block A, he's been off the grid for 20 years, but it looks like our prizes have brought him out of retirement. Hailed as a scourge of the seas in the early years of the Great Pirate Era and with a known body count to match. He and his crewmates helped take down one of the first emperors. It's the former captain of the Devil's Luck Pirates, the Devil's Luck himself.
William D. Chapston. The elder pirate was a slim man wearing a blue button-up under a brown vest, an ever-present smirk tugging at his lips. The man being on the back half of 50, the lightest amount of gray had begun to color his brown hair, said hair pulled back into a neat ponytail. A neatly trimmed goatee decorated his chin and atop his head sat a bicorn hat trimmed in gold. All this clothing, however, looked aged and slightly faded. A sword was strapped to his back.
Jin clenched his fist silently, mouthing a prayer to the powers that right for his captain's safety and anonymity. Custard and Angel didn't seem to notice, the two whispering to each other about the named competitors, apparently of the opinion that few if any unknowns would amount to anything in this block. 87 gladiators stand in the ring but only one can advance. The people's cheering redoubled at the announcer's words, yelling for their favorite or just wishing for blood. Ready in Terabang begin. Luffy blinked as the ring turned to pandemonium. Gladiators lunged at each other. Blood spraying as blades met flesh and skin broke. He twisted, his thin club arcing out to bash a guy who had been aiming for his back in the face, said man making a full turn before he fell, blood pooling from a broken jaw and a couple lost teeth. This is crazy. He laughed in his old man voice, ducking another sword before using his foot to kick the man into the air. Another twist and a roundhouse sent him flying away into a tightly packed group of what appeared to be wrestlers. Bao! The fighting bull yelled, now free of its restraints. Luffy watched as it ran toward a fighter wearing red only for the man to dive away, the bull slamming into a couple fighters behind, flinging them over the side and into the fighting fish-infested waters below, much to the joy of the crowd. A brilliant, fun idea came to Luffy's mind as he moved toward the animal. On the other side of the arena, one of the few women among the fighters stalked forward, her eyes set on a laughing man. She practically ignored the violent chaos on all sides, only swiping out with her right hand when a man blown away by his opponent nearly barreled into her. Her elongated nails raked across his back, redirecting the man's momentum as Belladonna's hand lost the black fur that had covered it in the moment. Haha, her quarry laughed, running his sword through a fighter with a beard nearly white with age. The old pirate pulled his sword free with a grunt, kicking the body away and swinging the weapon to remove the fresh blood. Aw man, it's been too long since I've had a serious scrap like this. William Chapston, the woman snarled, the man looking up at the sound. That's William D. Chapston, thank you, he replied with a grin. If you're going to say my name, say it right. I might not know what it means, but I know the D is there for a reason. He paused, taking in the hatred in the younger woman's eyes. Do I know you?
No, the woman said. But I know you. I set out to sea to find you and to kill you for what you did to my aunt and uncle.
That's William blinked, a hand coming up to rub the side of his head. Okay. Yeah, I probably did something, but that was decades ago, probably. Maybe. More than likely, I don't remember those two. How do you even know it was me? Oh, you'll remember, she hissed, her pupils turning into vertical slits as black fur covered her hands and arms, her legs shape changing under her pants. A cat's tail the same color grew from the back of her waist as a pair of cat ears popped up from her hair. This was the effect of her devil fruit from which her fighting style and moniker were derived. The cat fruit. Model panther. You'll remember seeing as you and your damned crew killed her, took over my home, and felt nothing when her death drove my would-be uncle to madness. You're not giving me any. William cut himself off as the zone launched toward him with a screech, her claws cutting through the air where his neck had been. His sword, the true ace of spades, launched out only for hockey-coated claws to bat it away. Listen, I don't like to hit little girls. Are you a friend or rival of Ev? He blinked, trying to remember where that sentence was supposed to go, but he couldn't for the life of him. Belladonna's eyes narrowed. You killed my Aunt Cleo. Cleo? The elder pirate had echoed, scanning his memories for someone of that name. Cleo, fuck. You're Cleo's niece in Terabang then that means. My uncle would have been Blake, she confirmed, a sick satisfaction bubbling inside her at the look on William's face.
She flexed her claws. The user of the flame fruit before fire fist. I had to look at your go-to-damned flag every day growing up in the oasis, a constant reminder of what you took from us. I thought it was a blessing when your crew disappeared, but then the fighting started again and the gangs came back to power. Your actions caused my mom to die. I have 20 years of pain to pay you back for.
This trip is getting way more personal and involved than I was promised. William sighed, rubbing his eyes. Look, kid. Your aunt was a crazy, annoying assassin who tried to kill us. She got what she deserved. Is that supposed to make me want to kill you any less in Terabang? The cat zone demanded. She launched forward, only for William to vacate his previous position with shave, or shuffle, as he called it. Belladonna didn't miss a beat, turning to where he reappeared. Your crew killed every parental figure I had. No, we only killed one, William corrected, unhelpfully. He spun, cutting down a fighter that tried to take him by surprise. Seriously, I'm way out of your league. I don't care. The cat zone charged forward only to be forced to dive away as the fighting bull barreled through the area she'd been passing through, the laughing Lucy riding on its back. Go, you see, Luffy cheered as his mount bowled over multiple fighters. Woohoo. Well, you don't see that every day, William chuckled, ducking quickly as a sword attempted to take his head off. He spun, the true ace of spades catching said sword as it came in for another pass. Suleiman's eyes widened slightly as the smaller man easily matched his strength. Hey there, big guy. Nice sword. I must say, for such a reputation, it is rather surprising I have never heard of you. Come on, I haven't been that far off the grid. You'll be 6 feet under the grid when I'm done with you. Belladonna yelled. The older pirate twisted, a band of black and red forming on his arm as he activated his devil fruit. His other hand came up, spinning it. It slowed to a stop within seconds, the band flashing before fading away. William blinked, a smirk coming to his face as his eyes became a sickly green. I can work with this, he muttered before his body turned transparent. Suleiman moved to stab him, but he twisted around the weapon and dove, his see-through body phasing into that of the war criminal. Suleiman stumbled backward, his black eyes taking on the same green glow and his lips quirking into a smirk that did not fit on his serious face. Now then, the possessed body of Suleiman muttered, bouncing his sword between his hands, let's take a risk. The roar of the crowd was loud even from within the bowels of the Colosseum. Amy pursed her lips, her hands twitching as she fought the urge to go free of Angel and Custard. She wasn't particularly close to the pair, having only sparred with each once or twice during her time in Totland. But the full-blooded sisters of Cracker were not women to take lightly. Still, with them occupied watching the fight and Luffy and said fight, that left Amy with plenty of time to poke around the underbelly of the Colosseum and stake out the competition. Most of the fighters were men, too many of them giving her lascivious looks for her tastes, but none of them really amounted to anything she couldn't handle with a good punch or two should the need arise. Thankfully, her leather, metal-lined armor covered everything it needed to, though she wished there had been an option to cover her midriff. Still, it was better than the bikini top the woman in the changing room had first offered. Amy was not the only one who had foregone watching Block A, it seemed. Maybe half of the remaining fighters were spread out among the corridors and rooms, punching training equipment or lounging. Her eyes trailed over a tall, buff man with a crown on his head, said man boxing with the air using a pair of boxing gloves. A smaller, mustachioed man no less wide talked to a group nearby, his glasses doing nothing to hide the gleam in his eye. It's sick, isn't it? Amy turned slightly, finding another woman beside her. She was dressed in less armor than seemed effective, said armor only really protecting her modesty rather than her vitals. The armor failed to do. A round shield on her arm and a green cloak did better. Her long, pink hair was braided down her back, rising into her bronze helmet. A sword hung at her waist and her voice carried the accent of Dressrosa. What's sick? Amy asked. All these people dancing to Doflamingo's tune, like a street full of people who don't know the mariachi or turning them into puppets. The woman turned slightly, her brown eyes studying the blonde. Are you one of these people? In a way, I guess, Amy admitted, raising a hand to her chin. Everyone in here is playing by Doflamingo's rules to get those devil fruits. I suppose it's what we plan to do with them after winning that really sets the puppets apart. And you? The rosette questioned. Are you a puppet? Someone else already has my loyalty, the blonde replied with a wave. I only dance to my captain's tune, as stupid as it can be sometimes. She offered a hand. I'm Coco. Rebecca. The female gladiator accepted the hand. What block are you fighting in? Block F, Amy answered. I'm in Block G, Rebecca relaxed a little, apparently glad her new friend would not be in direct competition with her. Not yet, at least. I take it you're after the fruits for your own ends, then? Something like that, the blonde nodded. It's more like not wanting them to stay in the hands of someone like the so-called king of this island. This is just the easiest way to do it, you. I'll claim one of the fruits, the native growled, conviction in her voice, and I'll kill Doflamingo with my own hands. Amy glanced at the waiting fighters around them. Other than a few eyes studying their forms rather than their faces, there didn't seem to be any real interest in them. She reached over, resting an arm around Rebecca's shoulders. Have you got somewhere private we can talk? I think we can help each other. Go, Daddy. Ace cheered from Mary's lap as he watched his disguised father riding the bull below. A part of him remembered and missed Bucktooth back on Punk Hazard, but his uncles Sanji and Usopp had assured him that the creature had not wanted to sail with them because he was afraid of boats. The boy had a feeling the bull would probably be the same, but it looked like Daddy was having a lot of fun. I wish I was big enough to fight down there. I'm not sure if you should really want that, Mary commented. There's plenty of strong people down there. None as strong as your dad, of course, but it'd still be dangerous for someone your age. But you're only a little older than me. I suppose that's technically true, the Klabouterman conceded. But I'm not human, remember? We wood fairies play by different rules. I was practically full grown when I materialized on Water 7. No fair, the boy pouted. That's how the world works, kid. You got this. Bella, a woman dressed in a red hooded cloak yelled from their left, another in white on her other side covering her ears with a bored look on her face. Kill that bastard like you've always wanted to.
Must you be so loud, Roseanne? The woman in white demanded. Her hair was the same color as her dress, a thin scar running down over one eye but clearly not having ruined its use. I've no doubt she cannot hear you, anyway.
It's the purpose of the thing. We have to support our crewmates at all times. Woo, kill him. 2.5 years and I still cannot believe you are our captain, the white-haired one sighed. A year in the new world and I can't believe your bounty is still stuck at 70 mil. That's, the woman's pale face turned red as she floundered for a rebuttal. Ace giggled at their banter, unperturbed at the evidence that both of these women must be notorious pirates in their own right. They remind me of Uncle Stupid Moss and Uncle Pervy Cook, the boy grinned, his words earning a laugh from Mary. They do seem like fire and ice, she agreed. Ace blinked up at her. Opposites, I mean. Two things that shouldn't logically be in the same place at the same time. But there was burning water back at the punk place. And it still doesn't make sense, the Klabouterman bit out, so I have elected to ignore its existence. So, like yours and Uncle Stupid Moss's sense of direction. Mary froze, an eye slowly looking down at the boy in her lap. Robin's been teaching you how to make fun of people, she accused. Auntie Robin sensei calls it, vir bal li tar getting others perso nal itai weaknesses, he replied without a shred of shame, carefully sounding out the multisyllabic words.
Well, you're doing good. Mary, the pretty boy's doing something.
Mary blinked, her eyes following Ace's little pointer finger to where Cavendish down below slumped over his horse before falling to the floor. A shiver crawled its way up her spine. Oh shit, Jin muttered to himself, his hands cracking the stone wall under the open window through which he, Angel, and Custard watched the first event. Down below, Cavendish rose. A creepy smile on his no longer handsome face. He lashed forward with his sword, nearly cutting a man in two, before charging ahead with an unrestrained laugh. How intriguing, Rum commented in the monk's head, an amused grin clear in his voice. It seems we are not alone in our strange dance of mental symbiosis.
More like mental parasitism, Jin shot back, swallowing a scowl. How? Why? You only really appeared after I almost died on Thriller Bark.
Those answers will remain hidden from us, my delightful oaf. For all we know, the man could be entirely ignorant of the entity borrowing his body. Somehow, I doubt that's the case. Jin rolled his eyes before muttering, narcolepsy and a sleep demon. That is a devastating combination. I don't know if it's a demon, per se, Angel commented, but I would think the pretty boy must be aware of it. It is likely the reason he was cast to the sea with a bounty in the first place.
That was only 3 or 4 years ago, so I'm sure someone knows, Custard shrugged. Jin's eyes widened, the man leaning forward in the hopes of concealing his worried look as one of intrigue.
The blonde below was, after all, heading straight for the monk's captain. Luffy was having the time of his life. Sure, there were people dying and he was fighting for the devil fruit of his late brother, but riding a bull was something he'd always wanted to do and who knew when he'd get another chance to do so? Subduing the beast with a concentrated blast of conquerors had been all it had taken to get the bull, now named UC, under his control. She, go. UC. Take them Doer fighters screamed as the bull charged them. Space in the once packed area was quickly opening as more and more fell to the hands of their competition. Luffy grabbed UC's horns and redirected him toward the next target. A man with a very wide jaw. The bull pawed the ground, the man in question searching for anyone who could help her any way out. Go, UC, boo. UC's cry was cut off by a sickening squelch, the beast bucking Luffy off. The pirate captain rolled with the force, springing to his feet as he watched UC fall over, blood leaking from a new opening in the creature's neck. Standing over the slain animal stood the pretty man the announcer had called Cabbage or something, a twisted grin stretching his mouth far too wide. It looks like the fighting bull of Kurita has met its final match, the announcer called. Another great warrior goes down to Cavendish's blade. Or perhaps this is the fabled Hakuba. Either way, pieces of the fighting bull will be available for purchase at the concession stand for a limited time following this battle. You bastard, Luffy yelled, almost forgetting to maintain his old man voice, a small part of him wondering if he had the funds to get a piece of the fighting bull for himself. You killed UC.
Gahaha. The man laughed in stereo, slashing his sword at the young father. Luffy dodged, understandably not wanting to meet the same fate as poor UC. He shot forward with shave, reappearing beside the super rookie with his club already buried in the blonde's gut. The sleeping man coughed as the laws of physics caught up, Luffy's weapon blasting him backward. Whatever power had hold of Cabbage, however, would not go down so easily, the man flipping to bury his sword into the arena floor, carving a gash as it prevented him from going over the side like Luffy had intended. The supernova cracked his knuckles, ready to confront the man for a second attempt, only to be forced to duck as an opportunistic no-name with a wide jaw tried to strike him in the back.
Gahahaha. Hakuba wheezed, getting to his feet. He turned, locking onto the new closest targets. A black-haired catgirl and the man called the beheader. He launched toward them, his sword cutting into the man's back before either of them could register his presence. The beheader, Suleiman, cried out in pain as another body shot out of his own, the acrobatic form of William D. Chapston rolling to his feet as his previous meat puppet hit the floor, unconscious. Man, the aged pirate commented, checking that he had not suffered the same injuries as Suleiman. I haven't had an out-of-body experience like that since I thought I heard a group of men narrating my life. He looked up to see Belladonna matching Hakuba's sword with her own hockey-coated claws, the alter ego having no technique to speak of save sheer speed. Leaving them to their battle. Dealing with Cleo's niece was a pain since she kept yelling shit like, "You killed my aunt," and "I'll kill you for what you did." William scanned the arena for another suitable host before the powers of this possession devil fruit timed out and he'd have to roll for another random fruit that might not be as useful. His eyes landed on a man with a white beard and a helmet, the man smacking fighters almost casually with his club. A grin came to William's face. Luffy beat another gladiator in the head with his club, the man going down with an indent that may or may not stick around. The number of warriors in the area had dropped considerably, only 10 or so remaining now between UC's rampage and Cabbage's careless assault. He eyed a couple others from under the shade of his helmet, ready to take them out of the fight too, when a feeling like cold water pouring down his back hit him. Luffy's eyes widened as his body was suddenly not under his control anymore. This, he heard his own mouth say in his own confused voice, is not the body of an old man. Luffy tried to say something, anything, as that cold water feeling started prodding at his brain, pulling up memories of his life. The images flashed backward too quickly for Luffy to get more than a glimpse before everything settled on a memory from Mount Corvo. His brothers smiling at him on that last day they were all together before the unthinkable happened. "Ah shit," Luffy heard himself say again. "I should not have done this, I'm so fucked." Luffy thought. Some his willpower as armament hockey coated his arms and grew up toward his shoulders, out. William shot out of Luffy's chest like a cannonball, smacking into the fighters that had been gathered before the disguised supernova. The man angled himself to soften the impact for himself, knocking his unfortunate cushions unconscious. He feigned unconsciousness himself, not wanting to get into a fight that would result in him getting yelled at more than he'd already earned. "Shit," Belladonna muttered, falling back step by step as Hakuba's sheer speed started to best her. She stumbled, feeling her heel land on nothing as the thing piloting Cavendish's body pushed her to the edge of the arena. Shit, shit, shit. Gahaha. A club smacked into the side of the blonde's head, Cavendish crumpling into a heap. Belladonna crossed her fur-covered arms, baring her claws at the bearded man now standing over Cavendish. Her eyes drifted over the rest of the arena where no fighter remained standing, even William D. Chapston apparently down for the count. "You still want to go?" the man asked, dragging her attention back to him. He wasn't even breathing hard, not a scratch or scuff to be seen on his clothing. "I don't want my son to watch me beat you up unless you really think you can take me on." Belladonna pursed her lips and raised her hands, her zoned transformations fading away as she fell to her knees and surrendered. The stands were silent for a moment before, like a gunshot in the dead of night, a pair of voices cheered. "Yay daddy! Go Lucy! Woo! I don't believe it," the announcer stuttered. He tamed the fighting bull, expelled the devil's luck, knocked White Horse, Cavendish unconscious, and forced Black Cat, Belladonna to surrender. He had to riffle through his registry. "It's a late entry, Lucky." And the people cheered, whooping and hollering as the victor of Block A raised his hands and basked in the praise, laughing to himself. The tournament structure was easy enough for him to understand, and he knew he'd just taken the first step toward claiming his brother's fruit. No one else would get it because no one else deserved it. That was Ace's fruit. "Alright, let's clear the arena," the announcer said as the volume in the Coliseum died down, the bridges stretching over the water. Men in black suits shuffled out, checking bodies for signs of life and carrying out those that did. Any that didn't were thrown to the little fighting fish, much to the bloodthirsty glee of the spectators. Luffy silently hoped Mary covered Ace's eyes for that. "We'll have a 15-minute break before the start of Block B. Remember, get yourself a piece of the fighting bowl before it's gone." "I gotta get me some of that," Luffy yelled, running out of the arena. In the stands, Mary stood, carrying Ace to the place where they could congratulate their captain personally and wish him luck moving forward. "Captain, congratulations." "Yeah, Daddy, that was awesome." Luffy looked up from his haunch of fighting bull, the attendant in the booth having recognized his outfit as the winner of Block A and offered him a free piece of the fallen beast for his victory. Luffy had wanted more than he had gotten but knew making a scene had the chance to expose his true identity, thus cutting off all chances of winning the competition and getting the flame fruit. "Mitch D. Watts NMD gigged," he said, mouth full, as Ace run over and grabbed his leg. "I'd see ACFUFFK. You know it's rude to talk with your mouth full, Mary chastised, the bits of Nami and Sanji's influence over her creation taking hold, though she refrained from attacking her captain. Unlike the violence-prone navigator and chef, she also had the patience of Robin and Coby. Luffy swallowed. Oh, yeah. She. I said it was nothing, easy as cake. His eyes unfocused slightly. Cake. Now I'm hungry again. Oh, I'm hungry, too, Ace said. Daddy, I want some of the bowl. Luffy hesitated as Ace gave him the big, pouty eyes that regularly worked on his crew. His eyes turned to the food booth only to see the owner nailing a sold-out sign over the fighting bull prices. He turned back to his hopeful son. Huh, he sighed, deflating a little. He took one more bite from the haunch before handing the boy what little remained, his mind remembering all the times that Shanks and his brothers had given him parts of their food. I must say, a voice commented, the trio turning to see a pair of women whose spirits felt similar. You're a lot stronger than we expected. I'm glad Rum didn't push us to take that bet. We should trust any more feelings he says he has in the coming rounds. The other sister nodded. I'm Angel and this is my sister Custard. You don't happen to be looking for a wife, are you? IAHFBEDHEN a medif, Ace protested before realizing his mistake. He swallowed. I've already got a mama. You should have looked at his hands, Angel, Custard said. He's already wearing a ring. Pooh, Angel sighed, scuffing the sole of her shoe on the tile. We're not going to find strong husbands at this rate. And I was so hopeful the Colosseum would have been the perfect venue. Cracker could probably beat everyone here, so it's not like they'd survive until the wedding anyway. Was there a point to all this? Mary prompted. We wanted to congratulate the first winner, Custard answered. After all, I may be fighting Lucy here in the semifinals after I win Block C. Good luck, Luffy offered. Some of the fighters are actually really strong. But clearly not something someone of your caliber needs to worry about. Luffy shrugged, not really having anything to say on the matter. Daddy, watch this. He turned his attention to Ace where the boy was turning purple, strain on his face as he tried to break the now clean leg bone of the fighting bull in half. He huffed, holding the ends with his hands while pushing on the middle with his foot. Luffy grinned, highly doubting Ace would be able to break such a fresh bone. It took him until he was 7, after all. I suppose we are intruding, Angel muttered. We will be on our way. Luffy didn't react to their exit, only silently cheering on his progeny. The sisters stepped around a corner, almost immediately turning to each other. Lucy isn't his real name, is it? Angel asked. Undoubtedly no, Custard agreed. That boy was the heir of chaos. Him calling the man father would make that monkey D. Luffy. Then the Straw Hats are on the island. We need to call Mama. She's been raring for that wedding the weightless woman promised her. Do you think the island's warlord knows they're here? It's possible, but it is not our problem if he does not. We will simply use the chaos that is bound to happen eventually. Let us find somewhere to make our call quickly. Indeed, sister. Rebecca and Amy stopped before a large statue of a shirtless man, the gladiator, for the plaque underneath explained that he was such, wielding a greatsword. Rebecca studied the room before pulling her fellow female fighter around to the backside of the statue, hiding them from view of the doorway. Is this private enough for you? The Rosette questioned, keeping her accented voice low. I find that leaning against the statue of Kairos helps to calm my nerves when life and the other gladiators irritate me. I can see how they get on your nerves, Amy agreed. She leaned on the statue next to the pink-haired woman. Based on what you said, can I assume Doflamingo is the reason you're in this place at all? Do you think I'm wearing this sorry excuse for armor because I want to? Rebecca replied with venom and embarrassment warring for dominance in her voice, her hands tugging her cape a little closer. I'm one of the convict gladiators. We were arrested and are forced to fight because we tried to stand up to Doflamingo. So you weren't given a choice to not compete, Amy clarified, earning a shake of her helmeted head from Rebecca. He's probably hoping you all die in the tournament. All the better if you kill each other for his entertainment. The blonde sighed. Let me guess, no actual charges? I have ties to the former government, the younger woman replied after a moment's hesitation. Everything here has been a sham for most of my life, ever since he showed up and his men killed my mother. She glared toward the wall, but Amy suspected it wasn't the wall that she saw. My guardian is preparing a raid as we speak in an attempt to undermine Doflamingo's power, but he wouldn't let me know the details. Won't let me join out of fear I'll get hurt. She gave a sardonic laugh and rolled her eyes. As if the life of a gladiator hated by the fans and other fighters isn't dangerous already. I hope that when I get the flame or quake fruit, I'll be able to finally break free of this prison and have enough power that he'll have no choice but to let me help. Which one do you want? Which fruit, I mean? I don't care. In fact, maybe I'll take them both, eat the quake fruit, and give the second one to Thunder Soldier. She grinned. I'd love to see their faces when a wooden toy bursts into flame without burning. Sorry, but my friends and I are after the flame fruit, Amy told her, unsure of who Thunder Soldier was but assuming it was the guardian she'd mentioned before. Personal connection and reasons. Aren't nearly all reasons personal? Maybe you have a point, Amy conceded. Thing is, you're not the only one with plans against Doflamingo. My crew and I are here to tear his reign down. This tournament and getting the devil fruit is just a surprise side objective for us. Who are your companions? We've got 2 others in the tournament and another 2 in the stands. The rest are spread across the island at the moment. Some of them should be inside Doflamingo's castle by now, so calling anyone right now could be a risky endeavor. Rebecca slid to a sitting position, her face tilting upward to stare at the ceiling. She sighed. I'm feeling a true ray of hope for the first time since I got captured and thrown in here. Is it? I can feel it, but at the same time it feels hollow. Do we actually stand any chance against Doflamingo, or is this just a suicide mission dressed as una bailauna flamenca? Will we dance to his tune until we die? I don't know what that is, but I do know this isn't the first warlord my crew's dealt with. We've got a lot of cakes to bake on this island and Doflamingo's about half of them. He probably knows we're here, but that's not going to save him, his men, or his operation. Rebecca gave a small smile, but it didn't reach her eyes. Well, let's get those devil fruits, then. Better than leaving them in his hands, yes? You got that right. Amy reached out a hand, Rebecca accepting the assistance to her feet. We'll see each other in the later rounds. It's a plan. That illusion stuff is amazing, Nami marveled, glancing down the stairs at the Gua were just standing there, their eyes slightly crossed. They'd had to wait until there were no living toys around. Grace couldn't guarantee her mental chemicals would work on them, but after a quick deployment, the quartet of pirates had walked right past and up the stairs. It's been useful in the past, Grace agreed. Almost too useful. After my first steal turned into Pico's all blue lost in museum shuffle, I knew I had to develop a calling card so they couldn't cover it up. Was that really necessary? Coby questioned. They weren't appreciating it, Grace argued. All those plebs thinking art is just a few strokes of paint on a canvas. Leaving a top-tier Pico among that riffraff would have been an insult to the man. It doesn't matter, Law insisted. You can have your little spat the morality of stealing paintings when we're sailing away from this island after dethroning Doflamingo. Easier said than done, Nami replied. Plus, that, is assuming you survived the whole ordeal. I notice you don't seem too concerned, the rival pirate deadpanned. At the moment, you're the one mostly at risk, Grace pointed out. Oh, thank you, Law groused. I didn't notice. You're welcome, the artist smirked. The castle doesn't have nearly as many people as I was expecting, Coby commented, his observation giving him a clearer picture the closer they got. I hesitate to even call it bare bones. There's practically no one there, even including toys. And of those who are, does one feel stronger than the rest? Law asked. Coby took a moment to focus on the spirits he could feel only to quickly turn pale, the young man gasping as he held a hand to his heart and fell to a knee. Bile burned the back of his throat. Coby, Grace fretted, quickly placing a calming green on the back of his neck. The Rossett's breathing eased as the chemicals in the paint did their work. Coby, what is it? The guy the first felt, he coughed. None of us stand a chance and his soul is twisted. It's darker than anything I've felt before. And just feeling it is oppressive, like he's standing on my lungs and laughing at my tombstone. That would be Doflamingo's Conqueror's Haki, Law noted. He possesses all 3, but he specializes in conquerors and armament. His observation is more a happenstance of living and fighting in the new world and less of a focus, at least last I am aware. It's also more battle-oriented than for tracking like yours. Now hold on, Grace said, one of her hands rubbing soothing circles on Coby's back as he tried to get his wits back after that exposure to the false king's spirit. Why do you know so much about him? I highly doubt it's just because you were warlords together. That's, Law scowled, his eyes gaining that look that said he was seeing the past. It's a long and bloody story from a long time ago. Then give us the highlights. Law sighed, rubbing his head with one hand. When I was a kid, the Don Quixote familia took me in, he admitted. I had an incurable disease and they were the only ones who wouldn't treat me like I carried a plague. Doflamingo's brother Rocinante stole the op fruit so I could cure myself against his brother's orders and died for it. Doflamingo killed him personally. The others picked up most of the rest of the story from the inflection in his voice, how his positive feelings for whomever Rocinante had been twisted into hatred for Doflamingo with his death. Right, well then, Nami announced. We won't get anywhere by just standing around here. Let's get going. The castle loomed larger the closer they got, hanging back so the guards at the front didn't react to their presence if they were seen at all. Law led them around the right side, taking them to the back corner of the building. There, he scanned the stonework until finding what he was looking for, a small crest depicting a lion raiment wearing a crown and standing on 4 stars. Law held out his fingers, pressing against all 4 stars so they spun clockwise. There was a click and he stepped back, the wall sliding down to reveal a spiral staircase. We should have Frankie install something like this on Sunny, Grace muttered as they entered. Where? Coby asked. Travel through the bowels of the Thousand Sunny was already pretty streamlined and, knowing the mischievousness of their second Klabouterman, Sunny would just open and close the hidden passages for fun and to mess with them. Yeah, I guess that's fair, Grace admitted. Law turned back as Nami brought up the rear, the former warlord pressing a similar crest on the left wall that closed the hidden entrance once more. Try horn. Where did you feel Doflamingo's spirit, and does my heart give off a similar aura that I do? Doflamingo is somewhere in the upper levels, Coby answered as they started climbing the stairs. It was hard to get a read on anything around him since his spirit was so dense, but I don't think he has your heart at the moment. Why do you say that? Because your heart does feel like a small version of you, and it's wandering the halls with someone who's a lot weaker than Doflamingo. That could be any number of his officers, Law muttered. Pika, T-Bowl, Diamante, Giola, Baby 5 or Buffalo, Gladius, Macvis, Senor Pink, Lao G, Dillinger, Monet, Violet, or anyone else who could have joined after I left. Thankfully, I'd much rather deal with any of them than Doflamingo at this time, even the elites. And those elites are, Nami prompted. Pika, Trebol, Diamante, and Virgo, he answered. Virgo's currently a vice admiral and spy in the Marines. But he still holds the heart seat. The rest hold the spade, club, and diamond seats respectively, and each control their own army of subordinates. I think Diamante runs the Colosseum, so it wouldn't make sense for him to be in the castle, but the others could be anywhere. What about Arts? Grace questioned. Arts, who's that?
Grace slumped a little. I guess you don't know him. He's a thief in Doflamingo's employ. I ran into him several times while acting as the Magpie of Color. If he's not here, that's one less problem we'll have to deal with.
Let's hope we don't, Coby agreed. He stopped and turned toward one wall, inset into it a fireplace. It's on this floor, on the other side of the castle. Let's go, Law nodded. He pushed on the side of the fireplace wall, the brick giving way as it swung on central hinges. The former warlord beckoned them through before closing it behind them. The room was some sort of meeting chamber or living room, the floor carpeted a soft fuchsia. Plush chairs and a love seat sat around a low table while a makeup table and vanity were set up in one corner. Altogether, it fit their idea of the sort of room one would expect to see in a castle this size. Coby led them to the door and, after glancing out and visually confirming what his observation had told him, stepped forward into the hallway. They hurried, following Coby as he twisted and turned through the maze-like interiors, stopping them whenever a servant or toy wandered their direction. Twice, Grace used a spritz of her illusion indigo so they could slip past a maid or roaming guards before Coby held up his hand and indicated the room in which he felt Law's heart. Said pirate went first, finding the door was locked. He made a tiny room to manipulate the bolts before opening the door carefully. Inside was a man completely covered in a long, black coat with golden gear accents working at a desk, his silver blue hair sticking up in spikes. A black top hat sat on the table to his right side beside Law's beating heart. His back was to the door. The rest of the room was decorated in what some would consider a steampunk style, turning gears all interlocked as they ticked together. All these gears connected to a clock that took up almost the entirety of the wall he faced. On the left side of his desk, opposite the hat and heart, was a framed photograph of the Don Quixote Familia. Law closed the door. That, he whispered, is Gladius. He taught me how to use firearms when I W powers of the rupture fruit, allowing him to make parts of himself and any inorganic matter he touches explode. Sounds like an upgrade to the bomb fruit, Grace commented, remembering her sister's late number partner in Baroque works. Mr. 5. What's he like? Highly intelligent but ruthless, Law answered. He'll kill anyone that doesn't live up to his or Doflamingo's standards. He almost killed me as a kid when I showed up late to one of his lessons. Can we take him? Nami questioned. Not without alerting everyone to our presence. Law bent over, clutching at his chest. Coby cracked the door open to see Gladius slamming a fist on Law's heart repeatedly, as if it were a stress doll. The man hummed. The young master was right, that is therapeutic. Nami glanced at Grace, the pair of thieves sharing a silent conversation. The chemist reached over, her fingers tracing an adrenaline amber on the young mother's arm before she caused her body to secrete the same internally. They slunk into the room together, soundless as a summer breeze but much faster than they normally moved. Using this speed, Grace circled slightly to get a glimpse of Gladius' face. His mouth and nose were covered in a white mask that matched his pants, but the tan of his upper face was exposed. A pair of goggles raised to rest on his forehead. She grinned. Like a pair of cats, the women moved forward toward Gladius' chair. Silently counting down, both reached forward, Grace for the man and Nami for the heart. The man's hands jerked upward, a cry of, "What?" interrobang, passing through his mask as Grace's hand covered his eyes, her other some argon chains to hold his arms down. The hand on his face secreted her drowsy dark blue as both a liquid and aerosol, putting him to sleep within moments. Nami grabbed the heart at the same time, the pair pulling back to where Coby and Law watched the whole process. Heart acquired, Grace grinned as the navigator handed the beating organ to its owner. Law felt his own smile appear as he returned it into his chest, sighing in relief. Let's get out of here. Not yet, Law said, drawing Kukoku and stepping into the room. Koby's eyes widened slightly as the captain of the Heart Pirates pulled Gladius from his chair, throwing the man to the ground. We need to reduce Doflamingo's minions whenever we get the chance, especially officers. Won't killing him alert Doflamingo to our presence? Coby tried, not wanting to see a man, even a criminal, murdered in cold blood, but he had no control over the actions of this rival pirate. I have my heart back, so I don't really care. Law stabbed downward, his sword piercing Gladius' heart. The man's eyes shot open, but he was unable to do or say anything through his sudden weakness. This is for all the shit you and your precious, young master, put me through. Gladius wheezed out a final, weak breath. The pirates wobbled as a powerful blast of Conqueror's hockey ripped through the building. I think he knows we're here, Nami yelled. Run. Robin adjusted the sunglasses and stupid mask she had procured from their last owner with the clothing she now wore, her other hand holding a rifle so its barrel rested easily against her shoulder. It was not fashionable by any stretch of the imagination and she would not have been caught dead wearing it in any other circumstance, but this was the quickest and most effective way into the toy house. I feel disgusting, she announced, a couple fingers tugging at the uncomfortable parachute pants, tan with black spots rising partway up the legs. That did not properly mesh with the tight black turtleneck. It likely did not help that there had been no women in the group that they defeated and robbed, leaving her garbed in male clothing. Kinnaman had offered to attempt to replicate the outfit with his powers, but she hadn't wanted to risk it after he tried to give Nami a beard on the sunny. I think you can look stunning in anything, Robin Schwan, Sanji offered, dressed in the same outfit as her and the others in their group. Luckily, Sanji, Zoro, and Kinnaman still had their fake beards to hide their identities, even if they now wore the masks, too. Only Chopper had been spared the embarrassment of the affront to style, only having to wear the mask. Zoro scowled at the sword he'd taken, throwing the low-grade weapon away without a care. Well, let's get this over with, he grunted, turning the wrong way down the street. Robin grabbed the back of his shirt and dragged him the right direction, ignoring his grumbles about the ever-changing city layout. The group approached the toy house with confidence, unconcerned when the guard at the door stopped them. State your business. We have official documents to be delivered, Robin answered easily. Documents? The guard blinked. Everyone knows Miss Sugar doesn't care for those. Even so, everything must be kept in order, the woman argued. How else are we to keep the toys in line? What are you talking about? They're just toys. Ah, Robin feigned surprise, a hand covering her mouth. I thought you were aware. Best not to ask, you might disappear like the others. Oh, the man stuttered, swallowing audibly. All right. Now then, the documents? Yes, right, he nodded, stepping to the side. The documents, of course. Robin nodded to him as she opened the door, her companions following her in until Sanji, taking up the rear, closed the door behind them. How did you do that? Kinnaman questioned. You were so convincing that I almost questioned where our documents were. Confidence will get you everywhere, the archaeologist replied, leading them into the main hallway of the toy house. If one acts like they belong and that everyone else is simply misinformed or ignorant, no one will question them. After that, it is the simple matter of a plausible story. Okay, but what do we do now? Chopper asked. We're in, but where do we go? We could always let Zoro lead. Nope, Chopper and Sanji instantly denied, drawing a huff from the swordsman in question and a confused look from the samurai. Or we can pretend we know where we are going until we discover something important. That seems like the optimal plan, Kinnaman nodded. Let us hurry and pray that Kanjuro is somewhere in the vicinity. Again, Robin led the way, the woman blooming eyes in the shadows on the walls above to get a clear layout of the building and a forewarning of what was to come. They passed a couple similarly dressed groups who didn't give them a second glance before entering an atrium that proved that at least part of the toy house was carved from the plateau since the base building was much too small for such a thing. In the center of this atrium stood a massive toy nutcracker nearly 20 feet tall, one hand raised as if in a wave while the other rested on a sword at its hip. It was still, surrounded by a circle of velvet ropes. Other nutcrackers of similar design, though only half the height, patrolled the edge of the room. With them moved small swarms of regular-sized teddy bears, stuffed rabbits, and plush cats and dogs, these smaller guards moving in and out of the connecting hallways. At the back of the atrium was an open staircase that spanned nearly the entire length of the room, said stairs leading down into the bowels of what was sure to be a labyrinth of rooms and passageways. If the toys were required to be here all night, that would be the most likely place to keep them. Sanji studied a map of the first floor, the depiction naming the location the stairs went to as the workshop. What now? Chopper whispered. Pardon, Robin said, stopping the nutcracker as it passed. The toy guard paused, turning its blank face to the disguised woman. We have items to deliver to Miss Sugar. Could you please direct us? The nutcracker was still, not a one of its limbs nor painted features so much as twitching, before it stood straight and used an arm to gesture them to follow. Robin glanced back and lowered her sunglasses to offer her fellow pirates' guide led them to the stairway, the tall toy taking a larger set of stairs that ran beside those for peoples and toys of small and normal sizes.
They did not speak, not wanting to risk how intelligent or how much agency this toy leading them might have if they revealed anything in its vicinity. The Nutcracker stopped at the base of the stairs, another set leading even deeper down ahead, but these were not labeled. Their guide turned left and strode forward, clearly expecting them to follow.
The workshop, as it had been named on the map, was as colorful and intricate as the other buildings in Dressrosa, the walls and pillars decorated with carved swirls and swaths of paint. Different toys were depicted playing with other toys and children, games like tag, hide and seek, and catch clearly identifiable while others were much harder to guess. Fewer toys roamed these halls, these mostly bipedal and carrying material from one place to another. "We love to work here," a pair of green robots incanted as they walked by carrying several planks of wood. "We love to work here." "I love to work here," a magenta brontosaurus muttered through the handle of a basket of stuffing. "I love to work here." "We love to work here," a trio of small, fluffy, creatures of some sort in different colors cheered, dragging a pallet of stone with clear difficulty between the weight of the stone and their little mittened hands. "We love to work here." "I love to work here," hissed a soprano-voiced fish on two wheels, a basket affixed to its head with rope holding what looked like glue. "I love to work here." "Something tells me they don't love working here," Sanji muttered to Kinnaman as the fish passed. Said toy paused for a half-second before returning to its previous route. "The shrimp was right," Zoro commented in a low voice. "These things are creepy." "I think they're cute," Robin offered. "Of course you do." The Nutcracker guiding them turned another corner before ducking through a doorway barely big enough for it to fit. The disguised pirates followed into another large room, this one more of a bland gray in contrast to the colorful hallway. Toys moved about, organizing shelves of parts for intake and export. The Nutcracker ignored them, making its way to a door on the far side. It was the lone splash of color in the area, decorated with numerous toys. Letter block stickers named the entranceway Sugar's room. "Thank you," Robin said as the Nutcracker raised a hand, stopping the toy guard before it could knock to give them away. "We will take it from here." The toy seemed to study her for longer than necessary before it lowered its hand and bowed slightly. The Nutcracker turned and meandered away. "Now then," Robin said as soon as the guard ducked through the doorway. "Let us begin unraveling this mystery." She approached the door carefully, turning the handle as slowly as she could. When the latch had moved enough to no longer hold the door closed, she pushed, opening the portal only enough to glimpse inside the room. Muffled voices came from within, Robin closing one eye as she bloomed another within, ignoring the way her fellow pirates, and Kinnaman, crowded around for a chance at hearing what there was to hear. Through her remote eye, Robin saw another colorful room, though it looked more like the playroom of a millionaire's little girl. A circular rug was spread over most of the floor, a desk sized for a child and a bookshelf with a ladder shoved into one corner. In the other was something like a hot tub, opposite a small table set with the tools necessary for one to have a pretend tea party. It was the water area that seemed to be in use, though not for any game. Alongside a small number of living toys of the stuffed animal variety were three women, one strapped to a board with sea prism stone chains over the hot tub so her head was lower than her feet. "Come now, Velo," Monet said, her wings resting on the shoulders of the little girl beside the restrained scientist. She looked to be somewhere in the range of 5 to 8 with hair the same green as Monet's. She was dressed in a dress of teal polka dots on white under a red cloak with bare ears on the hood. Upon her hooded head sat a small crown and in her hands was a teapot, presumably from the table. "Simply give us what we want and this can all be over." "You must think my intellect dreadful," the prisoner hissed. "As soon as I give you what you want, you would toss me aside. It would also make me a traitor to my captain and my master. I would never do something so dreadful to your darling queen." Yeah, Monet waved off, clearly having heard that spiel multiple times. "Sugar?" The little girl climbed onto a step stool and raised the teapot, pouring scalding water onto Velo's face. She screamed, writhing against the binds as the liquid turned to steam or dripped off her periwinkle hair into the hot tub below. Sugar stopped, the scientist coughing and sputtering in an attempt to clear her airways of what liquid had invaded her respiratory system. "I hope you're enjoying this, you dreadful bird-legged cow," the brunette snarled. "A lot, actually," Monet grinned as Sugar poured more boiling water on the woman. "Thank you for noticing." "Mark my words," Velo hissed as soon as she could, when word of this. "I'm getting bored," Monet, Sugar whined, interrupting Velo without a care. "I know you want to keep teasing her, but we aren't getting anywhere." "All right, fine," the harpy sighed. "Bring us the contract." One of the toys, a yellow bunny with symbols for hands, hopped up and bounced to the desk where it clamped a piece of paper between its instrument hands before returning. Another, some mix between a feline and a bee, retrieved a wide pad of ink. "Now Velo," Monet said. "I so did enjoy our verbal spars, so it'll be sad to see them come to an end, except it won't be, because no one will remember you. Have fun as a toy." "What are you?" Sugar reached forward, placing a hand on the scientist. All at once, she was gone. In her place was a blue robotic raptor, only slightly more sophisticated than the brontosauri the pirates had seen in the hallway. Immediately, since the new toy was smaller than the restraints on the board, the other toys leapt into action, holding the raptor down before it could get its bearings. Too quickly for it to react, the other toys dipped its palm in the ink before pressing said palm onto the contract. "The pact is sealed," Sugar announced as the toy's eyes glowed slightly, the others letting it go. "I shall name you, Rapaz." "Thank you," the now named Rapaz muttered, bowing. Monet took the contract, reading it. "Says here she is to be assigned to the Smile Grove," she commented. "Apparently, Rapaz here has some secret formula that will help us not need Caesar Clown anymore. She's to have a contingent of workers to brew it." "Didn't you leave Caesar Clown on that island with the pirates and marines?" "I guess that's why," the harpy shrugged. I cannot hear," Kinnaman muttered, leaning a little too hard on Chopper. He stumbled, the pair falling inside the door as the portal was forced open. The two hitting the ground made a soft whump, causing the two women in the room to turn to them and freeze. "Get them," Sugar ordered, the toys in the room jumping at her command without hesitation. Monet turned as well, a swing of her wing launching a blast of freezing wind and snow that blew the door off its hinges. Zoro reacted first, unsheathing Wado Ichimonji and slicing the door down the middle before it could injure anyone, but the force of the wind still blew them all backward into the gray room. The toys, riding the wind, leapt onto the swordsman, Rapaz sinking its teeth into the man's arm. "Toys," Sugar yelled to the stuffed workers of the room. "Get them, don't let them escape." "Zoro," Robin gasped, crossing her arms as she prepared to attack. "Cinquenta. Collier shoot." Sanji spun in, kicking away a teddy bear with claws that was aiming for Robin's back. "Damn it, Kinnaman. This is all you get out of here," Zoro grunted, cutting the yellow rabbit in half before throwing the robotic raptor away, its teeth drawing lines in his arm. "Seriously, where the hell did that girl summon these toys from? They have us surrounded." "Let us be away," Robin agreed, using her eyes to quickly count the number of toys in the area. Cien Fleur, clutch. Arms bloomed over every toy as well as the two women, their lithe muscles ready to break backs as effectively as they could. Sugar's eyes widened, her hand coming up unconsciously to grab one of the arms blooming from her back. Instantly, Robin was no longer there, in her place a doll with blonde hair and a red dress. The arms dispersed into petals. Seemingly confused, the doll raised its hand nubs to study them before reaching for Zoro in front of it. "Poitrine," Sanji yelled, kicking the new toy away before it could move. The doll flew across the room before smacking into the wall, its soft, stuffing-filled body cushioning the impact. "We need to leave before she summons any more toys." "The toys will be the least of your worries," Monet promised, her body turning pure white as she activated her snow powers, her face distorting into a wicked, sharp-toothed snarl. She spread her wings, thick snow rising as a dome around the pirates. "Snow Hunt." "Dragon Twister." Zoro blew the toys away, the wind of his blades blowing a hole through the top of the dome. Monet snarled and charged, Zoro swinging his blade to her reactively. The snow of her wings shimmered, hardening to the point where Zoro's blades scraped against them without his proper focus. "Perpetual snow," Monet hissed, her wings expanding to surround Zoro. The cold bit into him, his limbs going numb. He grit his teeth as black vapor began to whisper on his hands. "Sugar." Zoro looked down as a hand touched his leg, the little girl he hadn't considered a threat looking back. "There's a gorilla now in Terabang," Chopper gasped, pointing at the green gorilla now standing before the sisters. "She said something about snow, right? In Terabang will firework."
Diable Hambi. Foxfire Flash. Working together, Sanji and Kinemon burned a hole in the back of the dome, ripping the door on the other side apart in the process. Chopper ran through instantly. Kinemon threw a slash of fire backward as he and Sanji followed the inhuman doctor, Monet screeching as the heat hit her. The trio fled through the door, red lights starting to flash as a siren sounded.
"I think they know we're here," Sanji commented, taking the lead as Chopper and Kinemon followed him. "Plus, I don't think your samurai friend is here." "We still don't know where the toys come from," Chopper yelled as the pirate chef kicked several away and turned up the stairs. Shadows loomed from above, but the trio weren't aware of any other exits. "But now we know who makes them and that there are contracts." Bow shot. Sanji jumped as they reached the top of the stairs, his leg launching the first guard to come for them. "Maybe there are toys that don't have contracts." Arm point. Cloven Rosario. Chopper blasted away another nutcracker before shifting into his guard point, letting the abundance of fur practically absorb and tangle the smaller toys. "You will not get away," Monet screeched, her winged form appearing at the top of the stairs. Snow fence. Ice like snow formed on the walls, cutting off hallways without care for any toys trapped within. This included the hallway to the front door on the other side of the room. "Jumbo, finish off these intruders." Snowstorm. Something moved as visibility dropped, the pirates, and Kinemon, backing up so their backs were pressed against each other. Unlike Sanji and Kinemon, whose experience with snow was limited, Chopper had been raised on a winter island and, as such, had more awareness of what to look for in the snow. "The big toy is moving," he warned, a bit of hysteria leaking through his voice. He pointed, indicating the darkening shadow of the 20-foot nutcracker. Smaller shadows flanked it. "And that snow woman's everywhere," Sanji muttered. "I can't hit a woman, we need to run." "Snow Rabbit." The group jumped back as snowballs with bunny ears slammed into the flooring where they'd been standing, carving divots out of the tile. "Go," Kinemon ordered. "I will delay them, we can't leave you," Chopper yelled. "Whoever said I would be staying?" Kinemon closed his eyes and breathed deeply, drawing his swords almost slowly. He spun as if starting a dance number, fire sparking along his blades. Foxfire style, flaming wheel. Fire raced outward, Monet screaming on one side while the attack split and charred several wooden guards on the other. Jumbo, the big guy, managed to swing his massive sword to disperse the fire before it could do more than char his shoulder paint. Sanji and Chopper took that as their cue, the former kicking away anything that got too close, including knocking Jumbo over with a kick to his chin, as they made their way to the blocked hallway. Kinemon arrived as Sanji melted the frozen barrier, the trio running. They blasted the door off its hinges, blowing away the guard Kinemon had tricked. And wasn't that a weird memory, before taking to the streets and blending into the crowd? That, Sanji panted, was a bad idea and a disaster. "I concur," the samurai agreed. "We are fortunate we did not lose anyone in their counterattack." Koby's group in is the castle, Chopper remembered. "They're probably the closest ones to us right now and I don't want to be alone anymore." "Alright, then we're taking the expressway up," Sanji said, grabbing Chopper and Kinemon around their waists. "Skywalk." And then the wave of conquerors hit. "Welcome back, spectators," the announcer cheered, earning whoops and hollers from the stands. "I hope you all are full and bloodthirsty, because it's time for Block B." The people cheered and made noise as the area below began to fill with new fighters ready to fight and die for their entertainment. The announcer basked in the sounds before deciding enough was enough and that it was time to introduce the favorites of the match. Like the first block, we've got some interesting fighters in the ring this round. First up, a pair of dangerous bounty-hunting brothers known for tracking down and killing only those with bounties higher than 100 million. It's the Funk brothers Kelly and Bobby.
Kelly and Bobby Funk looked similar with their tanned skin, greasy hair, and square jaws, but one was clearly larger and more muscular than the other. Bobby, the taller one, was dressed a white shirt and had a black mustache-beard combo, his face shaded by a white hat. Kelly, in contrast, was only half his brother's height and was shirtless to show off 2-star tattoos on his right shoulder. He had a pair of boxing gloves over his hands. Coming to us from the East Blue, he now rides the waves as the vice-captain of a super rookie. He follows his religion through hell and high water and it's earned him the moniker, the missionary. It's Gambia of the Bardo Club Pirates. Gambia was a man with gravity-defying blonde hair and a grin that showed off his missing upper teeth. He wore an open, sleeveless, rose-pink vest to show off the leopard print tattoos on his left arm and the cross on his chest. A pair of nunchucks were tucked into the waistband of his yellow shorts and his high boots were the same color as if they and the pants had come in a set. He waved to the crowd with a grin. Our next competitor is another bounty hunter. This one all the way from the Shishano Kingdom. His ruthless ways have earned him the title of Jean the Bandit, and I expect he won't say no to taking a few berries and swords for his trouble. It's Jean Ango. Jean Ango was a bulky, shirtless man with deeply tanned skin. A metal mask-colored green hid the lower half of his face while the upper was shaded by a sombrero, the upper part modeled to look like a cactus. His left arm was protected by a layer of armor running down its length to end at a 4-bladed metal claw. He raised his hands. "Finally, I have been asked to make known for you a Colosseum elder. Despite his age, he's got an impressive track record of 349 wins to only 1 loss. It's the old muscle, Ricky." Ricky was all around average, dressed in standard gladiator clothing but with a helmet that completely hid his face. He raised his sword silently as few but devoted fans of his cheered. "Now then, we've got 90 competitors in the ring, but only one can come out on top. Ready? Go." Robin wasn't quite sure what had happened, a situation she did not experience often. Being out of the know in any way was something the archaeologist loathed to her very core. Too many times in her past had information been the difference between a tactical, proactive retreat and a panicked scramble for the closest hidey hole or rinky-dink boat. She hated panicking. She hated confusion. She hated being powerless. And now her powers would not come at her call. She looked down at her fingerless, fabric stubs of hands, the appendages as useful as arms as a log for a comfortable couch. She looked up at her now massive surroundings and would have swallowed if she were still able. As it stood, the only useful part of this new, toy body she had been forced into was her stuffing-filled insides were seemingly immune, or at least resistant, to blunt damage. Sanji's kick, an act in itself a surprise on the same level as her transformation, had sent Robin flying away from the group until her fabric bag met the wall, stranding her on a shelf. She then watched as another toy, a green gorilla, appeared before Sugar. At that point, the remaining pirates of her crew beat a hasty retreat, seemingly unaware of her plight. Sugar had made to go after them only for the gorilla to punch her in the face with its plush hands, the attack carrying more force than any plushie had any right to use. Monet had instantly frozen said toy with compacted snow before following Sugar's order of attempting to chase down the remaining pirates.
Powerless, Robin had watched Sugar, the girl with a freshly forming black eye, drag the frozen toy into her room. But not all felt lost. Yes, Robin may have lost her powers, but she now had insight. Insight she could use to piece together how Sugar's powers worked. I must think this through, she muttered to herself in lieu of being able to write. Her voice sounded odd, something off compared to how she normally sounded, but she chalked that up to her new form. Obviously, the toys are former humans, but what have we witnessed? Sugar forced the velociraptor to sign some form of contract, implying that those who do not must have some form of free will. Furthermore, Monet seemed to not know why they had changed the individual and needed to postulate using the contract itself. Between this and my crewmate's retreat, realization slid down Robin's now non-existent spine like ice water.
The gorilla is one of us, she hissed. No other explanation allowed for the sudden appearance of a toy hostile to Sugar. The fact that Robin could not for the life of her recall who had been transformed explained all too well the humans and Chopper's ease in leaving them behind.
They had been quite literally forgotten. Whatever power Sugar possessed must include an antinomonic component that blocked or erased others' memories of the transformed individual, resulting in the appearance of the toy manifesting out of nowhere. Now confident in her understanding of the situation, a long-term plan already beginning to form in the back of her mind, Robin focused the rest of her brainpower on what to do next. She moved to the edge of the shelf and studied the distance to the floor, looking for any dangers or items that she may land on. With the exception of a couple rusted hooks on the shelves below, there was nothing to damage the woman-turned-toy. Taking a deep breath is more a symbolic gesture since she no longer had lungs. Is this how Brooke thought? Robin jumped. Her landing was not graceful in the least, but there was no pain nor damage as her fabric body met the floor. Robin climbed to her feet and dusted the front of her ragged red dress, almost thankful for the immunity. With no human or toy in the area, she hurried forward with a somewhat wobbly gait. The room seemed so much larger without her long legs, the red-haired doll having to jog to feel like she was getting anywhere at a decent pace. Too long did it take for her to reach the doorway of Sugar's room, said door lying on the ground where Monet's initial attack had broken it from the hinges. Careful, wary of what may happen if she were spotted, Robin peeked into the room. She found Sugar sitting at the tea table, the toys from before stacked on top of each other with Rapaz the velociraptor on the bottom. The one on the top, a teddy bear, held an ice pack to the girl's black eye. Sitting on the table was the frozen gorilla, the girl pouring steaming water on the top of the block in small amounts. The hot water had already eaten through a good chunk of the ice, the top of the gorilla's head open to the air. With a sickening grin, the girl poured hot water directly on the toy. A muffled grunt forced itself out of the ice. Apparently unsatisfied with that, Sugar moved on to melt the ice around the rest of the head. Within a minute, the gorilla could blink. It struggled, its stuffing arms too weak to break free of its frozen prison. "Who are you?" Sugar inquired. The gorilla snarled, staring her dead in the eye. "Like you don't know," the toy spat in a deep baritone. "No, I don't, but I feel unsatisfied for some reason." Sugar set the teapot aside before reaching for a pair of child's scissors. "I'd rather pull the answers out of you this way than make you sign the standard contract. Now then, here's how this will work. I will ask a question and you will answer me. If you don't, I'll start snipping your stitches. Then comes the stuffing. The toys say that's extra painful. Like having your guts pulled out without being able to die. I don't know what that's like, but that's what they tell me." "Screw off, Brad," the gorilla hissed. "First question," Sugar said, undaunted. "Are you one of the pirates?" The gorilla remained silent. Sugar took the silence as an answer. "Question 2. Why did you enter the toy house?" Something moved behind Robin, the doll chancing a look back. She could hear hissing coming from the hallway, the familiar voice of Monet growing louder. Choosing to risk it rather than certainly be found, the archaeologist padded into the room behind Sugar and her toy servants. The gorilla no doubt saw her but kept its eyes on the girl, making no indication of the guest. Robin silently thanked him. She assumed it was a him with a deep voice like that, and hurried to the left where she was less likely to be found. She found refuge behind a large plush shaped like a boat with a smiley face, the ship a large civilian cruise with 2 smokestacks. "Sugar," Monet called, all but crashing through the doorway. There was a burn cutting through her top over her stomach, the snow skin there nearly bubbling as her logia constitution tried to deal with the aftereffects of her elemental weakness. Her jaw was clenched, her words pained. "Sugar, are you okay?" "I'm fine, sis," the girl said. "I'm more worried about you. What happened to the intruders?" "They got away," the vedette scowled. "At least, the ones we remember did. Who is this one?" "He won't talk," Yeah, that sounds normal. Maybe we. A transponder started ringing from beside the bed. Robin tensed as Monet turned, her eyes landing on the ringing snail. Before the harpy could take so much as a step, the pirate pressed her back against the boat plush and let herself go limp, slumping over like an inanimate doll, silently praying her ploy would keep her undetected. It did, Monet passing her hiding spot without a second glance. The bird woman stopped by the bed, balancing on one leg as her other reached up with her talons to answer the call. "Toy house," she said. "M. Sugar's presence is requested in the factory," the voice on the other side said. "The injured from Block A are arriving and Block B is nearly over." "Already?" the little girl whined. "Ah, I wanted to play more." "Sorry, sis," Monet shrugged, ending the call. "The young master did say you would be needed there at some point today." Yeah, I know," Sugar pouted, setting aside the scissors. "Come on. I'll fly you there. I bet Dressrosa looks amazing from the sky." "Okay." Sugar picked up the still mostly frozen icily unseen fridge. Needing space, she dumped out what was inside, reasoning that Doflamingo could just get her more later. With the fridge empty, she stuffed the gorilla inside, ignoring his indignant shouts of rage, and closed the door. "All right, I'm ready, sis." Monet bent down, allowing Sugar to climb onto her back. Ensuring she was secure, Monet carried her sister out the door, the toys under their command trailing behind. "I thought they'd never leave," a deep voice grunted, Robin practically jumping out of her fabric. She spun to find that the boat had opened its eyes. "Are you with that gorilla?" "I have reason to suspect so," Robin replied, sending the boat a side eye. "Will you be telling Sugar I was here?" "I am forced to stand guard over her room," the boat said. "I cannot move, however. When she remembers to ask, I am forced to answer her questions to the best of my knowledge." "How long have you been here?" "I don't know. I haven't seen the sun since Sugar got her hands on me. Please, go get your friend. I will tell you everything I know." Robin nodded before hurrying to the fridge. Her stubby arms forced their way into the door handle, pulling the door free. The gorilla's eyes widened slightly as light illuminated him, the doll having to crawl into the cold contraption to push the frozen plush from the other side on account of her lack of strength. "Oi," the gorilla grunted. "Who are you in Terabang, if my hypothesis is correct?" "A crewmate of yours," she answered, tipping the gorilla as it fell out of the confines. She left him face down, pushing the ice by what had been the bottom, the woman needing to stop periodically so she didn't get struck to the trap. "What is your name?" The toy hesitated for only a moment before answering. "Roranoa Zoro, first mate of the Straw Hat Pirates." "Odd," Robin commented with a grunt. "I remember Coby being the first mate." "Bullshit. I taught that shrimp everything he knows. He was just a pathetic little crybaby when I met him and Luffy at Shell's Town." "And I believe you," Robin insisted. "I simply do not remember, as I am decently certain you do not remember me." Sugar's power seems to carry a dangerous antinomonic ability. "I don't know what that means. Who even are you?" "My name is Nico Robin. I am the archaeologist of the Straw Hat Pirates and I joined the crew after Luffy rescued me when I turned my back on Crocodile. Then you all raided Eni's lobby to rescue me when CP9 abducted me for my knowledge." "That makes sense," the gorilla blinked. "It didn't really make sense that we would attack the place just for Frankie. We didn't know him that well." He paused. "Devil fruits are bullshit." "I do not disagree." With a final push, Robin managed to place the frozen toy in the shadow of the table. Leaving him there, the doll jumped, wiggling her way first onto the sugar-sized chair before getting onto the table itself. There, she took hold of the teapot's handle in her stubby arms and tipped it, aiming the boiling cascade toward the ice below. Steaming water met ice with a hiss, the solid melting somewhat quickly. The gorilla, Zoro, Robin reminded herself, flexed his stuffing-filled arms, causing the weakened ice to crack and shatter as its constitution lost the battle to the hot waterfall. "Damn, I wish I had my swords," Zoro grunted, trying to crack the bones in his neck but unable to do so considering they no longer existed. "How are we supposed to get out of this?" "I do not yet know," Robin admitted, balancing herself at the table's edge. "Zoro, could you please catch me? I would much prefer not falling to the floor a second time." The archaeologist flung herself from the raised surface, landing in the plush arms of the green gorilla. Zoro huffed, setting her back on her feet. "You are both members of the Straw Hat Pirates?" a voice asked, reminding Robin that the boat was listening. Zoro's hands went to his waist on reflex only for him to remember that his swords had disappeared with his transformation. "How lucky. I was planning on joining your crew." "Yeah?" the gorilla grunted. "And who are you?" "My name is Jinbei. I was a warlord until the War of the Best where I fought alongside Luffy."
Doesn't ring a bell. Did you forget already? Robin inquired, having to turn her entire head to give Zoro a deadpan look. It didn't quite land, considering her face now lacked most nonverbal reactions. Individuals turned into toys have all memory of their existence suppressed.
"Memory but not possessions," the boat, Jinbei, offered. "Items belonging to you or pictures of you remain. Should you need, Such evidence can be used to convince others of your story. If that is so, how does it seem no one in Dressrosa is suspicious? Robin questioned. Doflamingo and his crew have convinced the populace that any strange pictures and items are the results of the local fairies playing pranks and should be turned into the castle. Fairies? Zoro muttered, his head tilting. Didn't the Nami say something about fairies on our call earlier? She did, Robin nodded. Something along the lines of Luffy wrestling it because it stole her purse. Ah, so the Tontada are still at it, the Jinbei commented. That's good. Robin opened her mouth. Jinbei moving to answer her question before she could ask it. The Tontada are the dwarves living on the island of Greenbit. They and the Thunder Soldier have been working together in an attempt to undermine Doflamingo for years. I was using my status as a former warlord to help them look for the Smile Factory when Sugar managed to get me during a meeting with Doflamingo. Dwarves? Zoro blinked. Okay, yeah, sure. Dwarves. Why not at this point? Did you all get my message? Jinbei asked. What message? The one I left on Fishman Island. Jinbei frowned. Of course. With all memory of me erased, the letter would still be there, but the royal family wouldn't remember that I left it. For all I know, it might still be sitting in their treasury vault. We never received anything, Robin confirmed. What a dangerous power. If Sugar touched the wrong person, the entire world could be thrown into greater chaos than the Great Pirate Era. I wouldn't mind giving her a personal meeting with Kuma, Zoro muttered, remembering both Thriller Bark and Sabaody, even if the 2 years that followed made him so much stronger. Okay, so we're toys and no one remembers us. We don't even remember each other. How the hell do we undo this? Currently, the question remains unanswered, Jinbei said. Logically, if her devil fruit acts with rules similar to other paramecia types that affect others, then killing her, knocking her unconscious, or dunking her in seawater should do it. By what means could we achieve such? Robin questioned. Both Sugar and Monet have departed for the Smile Factory. A location that Calde answered suggests his close tour within the Colosseum. More than likely, anyone who discovers said location will swiftly be forgotten to all. And, it is possible more of our crewmates have already met similar fates. We need to drag her back here before she gets any of our crewmates at the tournament, Zoro suggested, a bloodthirsty gleam appearing in his button eyes. This place is her project, right? Where she keeps all the toy slaves. If we start wrecking shit, she'll be forced to come back, and since we're already toys, she can't do anything else to us. You can still die, Jinbei commented, but we won't, Zoro replied. I still have to become the world's greatest swordsman. No little girl is going to stop me. His energy was infectious, Robin feeling a smile of her own come to her fabric mouth. And I, she added, still need to learn the true history of the Void Century. And I, Jinbei put in, need to show the world that humans and fishmen can live together in harmony. Then it sounds like we have a plan, Zoro nodded, boat. My name is Jinbei. Where are the important parts of this place? We've got some irreplaceable stuff to break. What a fight, F called, clearly unconcerned for the dead and dying in the ring below. The same could be said for the people in the stands, the citizens screaming for joy at the barbarism displayed. We're coming down to the last competitors of Block B. Which one of them will take it all home in Terabang? Well, Kelly grinned. Only the big names and a couple stragglers left. What do you say, Bobby? Time to bust out our big guns? Yeah, sounds like a plan, Kelly. The remaining fighters, wary of whatever these big guns may be, stepped away from the pair. Kelly seemed to deflate, a zipper forming down his torso from his neck. As they watched, Bobby grabbed his brother and started shoving himself inside the skin suit. Gonna be honest, Jean Ango commented, pointing one of his stolen swords at the brothers. That's nasty. I guess it makes sense someone here would have a devil fruit, Gambia nodded. Of course, the question was which one. Although, they can't compare to our future king and his acolytes. Jean turned his sword on the Bardo Club pirate. Shut up. I'm sick of your cultist tonteria. I can't, the missionary replied. It's my sacred duty to spread the news of Luffy senpaiism. What? One of the unnamed fighters dressed a full, green, hooded cloak blinked. You just had to ask, Jean snarled, throwing several stolen swords at the pirate. Gambia dodged each one, a goofy smile spreading over his face. Let me tell you of our god king to be, Gambia said, practically ignoring the sharp projectiles coming his way as he moved around them. His name is Monkey D. Luffy Sama Senpai, and the boss and I's gonna win his brother's fruit as a tribute. We's gonna get his blessings to fly his flag, spreading word of his great name and deeds. He and his acolytes are gonna be the ones to bring in a new era to this world. What stupid drivel, the fighter known only as Ricky muttered. You don't believe me, the pirate observed, backflipping away from an axe that buried its blade in the arena floor. I understand. Prophets like me have a hard time getting others to see the light when their eyes are blurry, but I have heard the words. I have listened to the future. Goda himself has spoken to me. He has chosen Luffy Senpai to act as his hands in the world. His chosen avatar and incarnation. Luffy Senpai is the man who will become a god among men and all shall bow as he changes the world. Oh, Jean Ango realized. You're stupid and delusional. Jodidamente maravilloso. I am not, the world spoke. Don't ignore us, Kelly. Now piloting his brother's body. Yelled as his boxing glove-covered hands cratered the ground where Gambia had been. Jean Ango threw another sword that Kelly batted to the side. Not cool to interrupt my sermon. Dude, Gambia called. Luffy Senpai. Like I should care what some weakling has to say, Kelly spat. You're only worth a measly 67 million. You can talk to me again when you're on the same level as your captain. My, the blonde sighed, cracking his knuckles. Looks like someone doesn't want to convert. I guess I'll have to put Granny's punishment advice to work. I'll start with. Gambia screamed as a blade cut across his back, the pirate falling to a knee as blood started to flow down his body. Mustering his strength, he dove forward onto his stomach to avoid the blade that nearly stabbed him. What a surprise, the announcer called, checking his notes. Drawing blood from Gambia the missionary is one of our underdogs, an unknown going only by Worm. The so-named Worm huffed, eyes shaded by a hood turning on the other remaining competitors. His brunette mutton chops were clear to see, a scowl on his lips raised on his left side. He flicked his blade, Gambia's blood splattering over the flooring as the man cleaned his weapon. How, Gambia muttered through the pain. I see can hear everything, but you. Arrogant pirates like you are the easiest to kill, Worm snarled. He dashed forward, practically blurring, before planting his shoe in Gambia's gut. The Bardo Club pirate coughed red as he was punted like a sack of potatoes, the cut on his back leaving a trail of blood as he rolled to a stop and did not rise. Lucky for you. Elimination is not my priority at the moment. And just like that, Gambia is out of the running, the announcer gasped. And it looks like Kelly Funk is ready to brawl. What was the funny guy saying about Daddy? Ace asked in the stands as Kelly, Jean, and Worm clashed. Ricky tried to keep up with them, but an errant, almost dismissive, swing from Kelly smashed half of his helmet and took him out of the fight. Sounded like he worships the captain, Mary answered with a tilt of her head. Weird. I guess there are nut jobs for everything. He could be useful, though. Yeah, he says funny stuff like Uncle USO, oh, that's gonna leave a shiner. The announcer laughed as Kelly Funk decked Jean Argo, 1.5 bounty hunters taking the other out of the fight by getting inside the Shishinoan's personal space. With no room to throw any of his stolen weapons, Jean the bandit suffered 2 uppercuts to the gut before a final strike to the face laid him flat, revealing that his cactus-shaped hat was actually a wide visor over cactus-shaped hair. And then there were 2. Who will move on to the next round? One of the Funk brothers or the dark horse Worm and Terabang? There's something familiar about that guy, Mary muttered, her eyes watching Worm's every movement. She didn't believe for a moment that that was his actual name, but she could have sworn she'd at least seen him before, but she couldn't place it. Everything clicked, however, when he next dodged one of Kelly's punches by a hair's breadth. That's paper art. Paper art? Ace blinked. Like origami or crayon drawings. No, Ace. Paper art is one of the 6 powers. One of them is how your uncle pervy cook, Kaku, and I can jump off the air, but they're almost exclusively used by Marines, meaning. Hood guy is a Marine guy, Ace finished. Down below, Worm took a wide stance, his hands fisted at his sides. Finally decided to call it quits, Kelly grinned. Let's end this, Aura. Kelly swung, only his foe did not go flying upon contact. Rather, it was like punching steel, Worm only shifting backward an inch from the force. Kelly only had time for his eyes to widen before the smaller man grabbed his hand and brought around his other, snapping the brother's arm with a loud snap. Kelly screamed in pain. Bobby's voice mixed in, as Worm stepped in. His final punch produced a shockwave, Worm jumping back as the combined brothers tipped forward. They split, Kelly and Bobby left unconscious on the floor. In a stunning upset, the unknown Worm has taken the victory of Block B. What more can we expect from this surprise victor in Terabang? Worm barely acknowledged his win, the man pulling his hooded cloak tighter around him as the bridges connected to the arena. Medics rushed out, gathering the merely wounded and salvageable from the deceased, uncaringly dumping the latter to the fighting fish. Mary covered Ace's eyes for that part. Sure, the world wasn't pretty, but there were some things that children just shouldn't see if the option to not was available. That Worm guy was pretty strong, Angel commented, the one calling himself Rum at her side as they watched from one of the competitor windows. Custard had departed when it became clear the Funk brothers were outmatched, the first of the twins to fight making her way to the gate for the next round. The purple-haired woman licked her lips. A little small, but there's nothing wrong with that. Mama says short guys try harder. Is it always like this with you two? Jin demanded. Now, Angel admonished. You know Custard and I came here specifically to look for husbands. Trying for the flame fruit is just a bonus. Oh yes, Jin said, rolling his eyes under his helmet. How could I have forgotten? So, what did you think about that missionary guy? The woman asked, keeping the man in her peripherals. I've seen religious knew someone worshipping someone who's alive, much less a youngling pirate. Young, Jin began before cutting himself off. Angel hid a smirk, her suspicions all but confirmed. Now that she and Custard knew the Straw Hats were on the island, she just had to test the man whose anonymity did not fit with his strength. I will admit, worshipping Straw Hat is an odd choice. I wonder if he has strong opinions about the Straw Hat's family. Who knows, the man's captain is a super rookie, though. He should be even stronger. I wonder, however, what he thinks of his crewmate's odd choice of religion. He could be of the same opinion, Jin muttered, his feelings mixed about the possibility. Yes, this was not the first time the crew had faced down a warlord, but this one had lived constantly in the New World and was the one that gave the Don his X-shaped scar at the War of the Best 2 years ago. More allies wholly and completely on their side could be a boon, but he knew firsthand the dangers of blind devotion. I suppose we will have to wait and see. In another window, a pair of women watched them clearing the arena for the next match. Rebecca frowned as they tried to place Ricky on a stretcher only for the old gladiator to fight back, getting to his feet and limping out on his own feet. Ricky was something of a force of nature, his only one-on-one loss in the Colosseum being against her in a battle where she could tell he was not giving it his all. Rumors swirled around the man like fruit flies to old grapes. Everything from the man being Kairos himself to the former king to a government spy. Obviously, such things were ridiculous, but his hesitance in their match all those months ago had cemented her curiosity on the man. I wonder if every match is going to be so chaotic. The one calling herself Coco commented at the Rosette's side, the blonde playing with a cannonbow she'd managed to snag from the armory. She'd also opted to copy Rebecca's cloak while she was down there, grabbing one in a tan yellow. Course, it does seem like the big names will regularly reach the final few. My match will be another upset, though. I don't know about that, Rebecca admitted. I managed to get a glimpse of the schedule while you were finding a weapon. That missionary guy's captain is in your block, along with the king of the Proton's kingdom. One's a super rookie and the other said to be able to destroy a castle with a single punch. Is that so? Amy questioned, the gears of her mind starting to turn. She covered her mouth with a hand, not wanting her companion to see her lips quirk into a smile. Maybe I need to start scoping out the competition. Maybe I need to do the same, Rebecca agreed. My own block didn't seem to have too many big names, which is a little concerning. Did I tell you about my companions? Amy asked, Lucy and Rum. I think I remember seeing Rum on the list, the pink-haired fighter muttered. We'll be facing each other in the first round. Then one of you will be taking home that block. Amy turned, lifting her hood. Well, time to go check out this Captain and Kane. I'll go find one of your companions, Rebecca decided. If you all are truly set on taking down Doflamingo, it would be best if we combined forces. The women nodded to each other only for Amy to pause. She grabbed Rebecca by the arm before she could take more than a single step. The Dressrosa native went for her sword on reflex, but the blonde's other hand stopped her. If we're going to work together, then I have to be honest with you. My name isn't Coco. That's just the name I gave the staff to keep my identity hidden. My real name is Amy. I'm a member of the Straw Hat Pirates. The who? Rebecca blinked, unfamiliar with greater news of the world since she was trapped within the Colosseum years ago. It's my captain that Gambia apparently worships, Amy clarified. If his captain is the same way, they'll help us take down Doflamingo. I just wanted to let you know before you met my friends. I see. Rebecca turned away, contemplating this turn of events. There are others like me here, remember? Those who were thrown in here for verbal rebellion? I'll let them know you all are allies so they don't try anything. Fighters sometimes mysteriously disappear before they can reach the arena when things go to plan, you know. I'm glad we're on the same side. The pair split, Amy heading toward where the injured were being taken in the hopes of catching the super rookie as he greeted his injured crewmate. Rebecca, in contrast, went for the competitor area in the hopes of finding Lucy or Rum. As she walked, her footsteps silent as she'd been forced to learn early in her days in this prison. Hushed voices sounded from around a corner. I'm telling you, William D. Chapston hissed, Rebecca instantly shoving her back against the closest wall. I know what I saw in his memories, it's him. That's why you blew your shot, another voice, one she hadn't heard before, replied. Obviously, I mean, I could have taken him, but the tongue lashing you would have given me for kicking your brother's ass would not have been worth it. You were a cute kid, by the way. I bet Koala. William, I will punch you through the wall if you finish that sentence. Geez, so touchy, William chuckled. But yeah, Straw Hat is here, and so is the rest of his crew. They've teamed up with Trafalgar Law and a samurai and are planning on taking down Doflamingo. They didn't know a thing about the tournament until they got here. That's why the announcement was so sudden, the unnamed voice realized. Doflamingo probably knew they were coming and set this whole thing up in the time it'd take them to arrive. Are you gonna go find him? There was a pause, Rebecca imagining the voice needed to think. I think I will, the voice decided after half a minute. Now that he's here, I don't think I can wait any longer. Good luck, Chief, William said. If his memories are any indication, I don't envy your dry cleaner having to get the waterworks stains out. William, Chief, whoever that was, sighed. Shut up. Go eat a salad or something. Will do, Chief. Rebecca kept herself pressed against the wall as the pair apparently separated. One walked right past her, her eyes catching a dark cape and a top hat before the individual disappeared. She didn't know what she'd just heard, but she knew whoever that was, they had to be important if an old legend like the Devil's Luck took orders from them. And whoever it was, he had plans for her new allies. Doflamingo, pirate warlord, last true heir of the Don Quixote name, and king of Dressrosa, was pissed. He'd felt one of his officers' spirits scream in his unfocused observation before vanishing, a feeling he'd long since learned was the sign of a person's unexpected death. His conquerors blasted forth before he could properly control it. Violet, the beautiful, dark-haired woman having been made to feed him grapes as he lounged on the throne, passed out almost instantly, her body crumpling on the stairs in a manner that was sure to leave a few nasty bruises. In that moment, Doflamingo couldn't care less about the woman he'd forced to join his crew for his own sick entertainment. Someone had entered his castle and slain one of his men. Guards, he barked, but there was no answer. Growling, the warlord stomped toward the doors, his strings yanking them open with enough force that they nearly came off the hinges. The knights standing on either side of the doorway had fallen like puppets, his spirit having knocked them unconscious like the woman. His frown turned into a sneer. Useless, he barked, twin slashes of his hands causing razor strings to cut the men into pieces. Doflamingo panted with fury, ignoring the spreading pools of blood that would require a lot of time to clean off the tile. If these guards had been affected by his spirit, then there was every possibility each servant between him and the intruders had been left in the same state. He growled. Must I do everything myself? What else do from commoners? Young master, a voice called, the king turning to see baby 5 running to him. Young master, is everything okay? No, it is not. He closed his eyes for a moment, feeling the spirits in the castle. Gladius is dead. Dead in Terabang, the maid gasped. Who could have done such a thing? Law. I felt him. He is here, along with the Straw Hat Pirates. He paused, turning to his subordinate. Baby 5, I need you to do something for me. Anything, young master. Gather whomever you can quickly and go after Law. I want him alive, but whomever he's with is of little concern unless you think they would be useful prisoners. I'd kill them all instantly if I found them at this moment, but I want to make Law's death slow and painful for what he's done. Can you do that for me? Of course, Baby 5 answered. Anything for you, your majesty. She dashed away, making her way to the courtyard where many of the other members of the Don Quixote familia spent their time on days with beautiful weather like this one. Well, the warlord decided. I suppose our game has officially begun. You might have drawn first blood, Law, but the war is far from over. Ah, I see, a voice commented, the tall man turning to see a pair of men coming toward him. The first, dressed in purple, tapped his walking stick on the floor twice as he approached. It seems you have some rats in your castle, warlord. Admiral Fujitora, Doflamingo replied, his eyes moving over the man's shoulder. Vice Admiral Jonathan, now isn't a good time. When is it ever? The admiral replied. I understand the inconvenience, but it seems you're already taking steps to deal with it. We, however, have business. And what business could the Marines have with me so important that they sent one of their illustrious admirals? The pirate questioned, doing little to cover the sneer in his voice.
We have received worrying reports, warlord. Reports that you have been pushing the boundaries afforded to you according to your status. We must either confirm or refute these rumors. If you have remained to our agreement, there should be nothing for you to worry about in monetary compensation for your wasted time.
Doflamingo grit his teeth, mentally preparing to dodge another surprise inspection that had become uncommon occurrences over the past 2 years. Damn those low-level East Blue Marine morons. If those idiots hadn't gotten captured, he wouldn't have to deal with this at such an inopportune time. Very well, the warlord sighed, pulling up a fake smile. Right this way.